Our first speaker is our Vice President, Ms. Comrade Felicia Dujon, spokesperson on education.
Good evening, comrades. Good evening, comrades. I know you can do better than that. Good evening, comrades. Yes, we have to let them know that we very much are alive and well. We are here and our presence will be felt every constituency that we go to. I can't see it, sir. I will eventually go there. Okay. I wish to acknowledge two of our candidates in the room, so please stand, fellow comrades. Needs to acknowledge. We need to give them every support that we have. We have to ensure that regardless of which constituency that they represent, that we provide them with every support that we have. It is our responsibility and our role as members of this great party. Comrades, this evening I may have to put on a different hat because I think it is important, I think it's imperative that we speak on issues that affect our society, issues that affect our community, and issues that affect us directly. And those matters primarily has to deal with our children. I think every member in this room right now has a child somewhere at home, related in the community, and we find that we have a responsibility and we have a duty to protect them. And that duty does not only mean physical protection, but also we have a duty to protect the people in this government that believe that they are doing the right thing when it comes to the education of our children. We have seen for the last 2 years that this government has no interest in the education of our children. We have seen a decline in the performances of our children. We have seen children are too afraid to go to school. And now we are seeing that teachers are too afraid to leave their homes because of fear of they being violated by their own students. As a teacher myself, it makes me wonder, where is the fragment of our society? Where is the fabric of our society? And primarily, where are we headed as a society? Our society has been in a crisis from the very first time that this government took the reins of government. If we have not recognized this as yet, I'm not sure how longer it will take. This government has been in, I would not even say power or governance, but they have been in a position that has dominated our homes, our schools, and our society for the last 7 years. And I do not believe that we as a society can take it any longer. I believe our children at our crisis, I believe that they too cannot take it any longer. And I believe even for us, deep down our subconscious tells us that something is not right in this society. We can see it, we can hear it, and we can feel it. No one has to tell us that at this point in our lives that this country, our beloved country, is at a crisis. It's at a crisis not only in education, it is at a crisis for agriculture, for food security. It is at a crisis for public safety and security. But we have a Minister of International Travels that seem not concerned to anything that is happening in this country. And I think tonight we have to take what we call introspective and recognize that it is our duty as the Democratic Labour Party to take the reins of this government. We can no longer afford to spend another year, another month, another day under this government, because every day when we open our newspaper is a crisis. Every ministry is a crisis. And if I may be allowed to say that, I want to thank Mr. Ralph Thorne personally. I know he's not there, but when he comes, remind him that I thanked him publicly for coming to assist us in this battle. I mean, know that many of you may not understand the kinds of work that has been done since Mr. Thorne has joined us. And we need to thank him because it took courage to do what he did. And because of his courage, many of us became even more courageous. And we're seeing it in every aspect of our society, that we have the right to speak, and no one will silence us, not even if they try. They could no longer silence us when we want better for our children, when we want better for our grandchildren, when we expect them to allocate funding and do what they say that they will do with that funding. Because what we will be discussing today, because every year we go through those texts, this book, this 800 and something pages. And this basically tells us where our taxpayers' funding is going. And it is our duty to look and find where every single penny is going. And if they cannot account for it, we will hold them accountable. And this is what we are responsible for doing. This is why we have to support our leader of the opposition. We have to support him. We have to support our senators. We have to support our candidates. We have to support every member of our party, as well as every citizen in this country, including members of the Barbados Labour Party. The reason why I'm saying that, because we know that they too are suffering, but they're not going to say it. Not only that they're frightened, but they know that they made an error in judgment. They made an error in judgment. And because of that, we have to pardon them. Because as human beings, we are born to err. It is in our human nature. Because we did not expect. We know as the Democratic Labour Party, we know what they were. But they did not expect that kind of wastage of government and an uncaring, vindictive government. This is a government that do not put your interests at heart. And I want you to take close note as what is happening within our society. It's not only to deal with the matters of crime, and we hear crime all the time, but crime is a symptom of the mismanagement of this government. Because what they have been doing is what we call a facade. It's an illusion. They make us appear that they're doing work, but we're knowing that nothing is being done. We know that. They told us that the economy is growing. Where is it growing? Not in our pockets, maybe on the flights, but not in our pockets. We recognize what is happening in our schools. And today, one of the main things that I wanted to do, and I want you to take critical analysis of this. For the last year or so, this government has not debated the Ministry of Education in Parliament. And this is going to be the second year that they're doing this, because they feel that we as citizens do not have the right to know where the money is being allocated for education, because they're a government of friends and family and everything else that comes with it. And the reality is that we have the right to know if we are going to spend $500 million on education and we cannot see the results, we have to hold them accountable. We need the Minister of Education to tell us where every cent is being spent. Every cent. We cannot be giving you $5 million every year. And these are the conditions of our children's schools. We see it. We recognize it. I have brought it to the attention of the public what our children have to endure every single day. And then we worry why our children are so restless in schools, why they cannot function adequately in schools. They have to be in environments that is conducive for learning. We all went through the education system, and we could imagine being in classrooms and with leaking roofs, being in classrooms where there's rodents, being in classrooms where there's bees, both sets. But the reality is that we have to understand that a learning environment is conducive for having healthy education. It is important. But one of the things that I wanted to touch, I'm just going to use my slide, because I think I want to show you exactly what this government has been doing to us. And then they're going to play that they're doing us, what they call it? They're doing us a favor. We elected you. Well, not me. We didn't. We didn't. But the people and the citizens elected you as a duty to serve the people and the country, not to serve yourself, not to disregard their concerns. And one of the things that I want us to pay attention to is the money. You know, we know she loves money, right? They love money. But it's not their money. It is our taxpayers' money. This is our money that we work for. And we have the right to know where every single, if I have to say, black cent is going. And the reality is that I took the opportunity to go through the estimates. And every year, we see the millions. And this year, it's even worse. We're in billions now. And you know what that's going to happen to us? This is a government of taxation without validation. They do not validate. Why are they taxing you? You know we're getting taxed, but we don't see it. Other people may be seeing it, but it's not us. It's not the citizens. Because they do not regard us as equal partners in this country. And so it's very important that we take note of what is happening when it comes to the Education Act. The Education Act in itself, it is not something arbitrary. It is a law. It means that the Minister of Education must abide by the law. And there have been several breaches, and I know that you know quite a number of them. And Springer Memorial is just a year ago. And some of us forgot. These are the same individuals that are still in leadership positions within this society. And what we have done, we have pardoned them. Or some of us have forgotten the violations that they have continued to do against our children. So one of the things that I wanted to look at is the expenditure of this government. Because since they do not want to bring it in Parliament, we will bring it in our own environment. Somebody did something. Thank you. Thank you. I brought the PowerPoint because I want you to see how much money is being spent. And they do not feel the need to bring it to Parliament to explain to you what is the Minister of Education doing with that kind of money. Okay? Over $400 million every year. And for this year alone, 2025, 2026, Soon it will be 500 million, and it will increase. It will increase. But the question I want you to ask yourself, the Ministry of Education gets almost 4%, even almost the highest of the budget allocation. But have you seen the benefits in our education system? Our children, are they being fed correctly? Are we having enough security guards at the schools? Is there enough infrastructure at the schools? Are teachers being paid better? Do they have the adequate resources in the classrooms? Do our children, do they have the different devices that they need in the classrooms? And let's not even talk about transportation. And we see the levels of violence in school, thank you, comrade. And then we wonder why our children are exhibiting such antisocial behavior within the society, within the schools. It's systematic, because the money that is supposed to be allocated, and as I said before, I've been walking around with this. Every year when we get it, it is our duty to go for it, because I want to see where every cent is being spent. And they tell us $1 million here, and $1 million here, and 800,000. You saw what they happened at Grantley Adams? Almost how much? $500,000. $500,000. But they cannot account specifically how was it spent. Comrades, this is our money. And the question that I'm going to ask you, how long are we going to allow them to take advantage of citizens within the society? Because we can see it, we could know, but the reality is that they will not bring it to Parliament, because they know that our honorable political leader will take them to task. They know that our senator will take them to task. Let me acknowledge our senator this evening. Don't mind them, you know. They know they have a task at hand. They are afraid of them. When they know it's their time to speak, boy, I tell you, they can't sleep, you know. And they know that, because when we come, these are noble men. These are noble men, and when they come verily researched. These are men of integrity. And they have the ability to be transparent in every transaction. So we know that members of the Democratic Labour Party, we're not sending anyone to them. They're core representatives of the reflection of who we are. Like we would say, they're not poppy show people. They're not the kind of poppy show we see in government right now. So when we see that kind of money being allocated, and there's no account for it, and then we wonder why we're seeing students are not performing the way that they do. So I want you to see that violence in school is systematic for the mismanagement of funds. If you have a bad manager that is not using the funds correctly, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to employees? What do you think is going to happen in terms of productivity? And this is what we're seeing. We have a bad, poor manager at the Ministry of Education that has needed to be fired a very long time ago. But I will go ahead and show you. You remember education reform sometime last year? Remember they had a big show and people were dancing, all the glitz and lights and action was happening. Yeah. That's the first time I actually saw the minister of, the CEO of education dancing on a stage. I almost thought it was a circus happening. But it was supposed to be education reform. We were supposed to be reforming education. But what was very important is that there was money allocated for education reform. And I remember not too long ago, good evening, acknowledgement of our other candidate. There was money allocated for education reform. So don't think all the dancing and all the merrymaking on stage was done for free. There was money allocated for that unit. And so every unit in that department, that was a special unit, education reform, $40 million. 40 million. And I keep counting. We keep counting. So that was from 2021. And so you can almost imagine what will happen this year. And we remember very recently, the director for education reform said, we have to take a halt right now. We can't move forward. So what does that mean? What happened to that $40 million? What happened to it? After all the merrymaking and all of that glitz and glance that we will do educational reform and Academy of Excellence and all these wonderful words to trick and fool the people, $40 million from your taxes, from your salaries, that you thought that parents and citizens, good law-abiding citizens, felt that something good would come out of that if you're taking the taxes from me. But what has happened now? The unit is now telling the public, in the public domain, without any conscience, to tell us, well, there's nothing we can do about it right now. We'll have to halt this initiative after all of these funds have been spent. 40 million is no little money, you know. That's not 5 cents or $2. $40 million wasted. A government of wastage. And this is what we're seeing, not only in education. The only reason I brought up education because they're not going to debate it in Parliament. She's not going to dare bring her best friend and buddy under the microscope so that the people will have the ability to judge accurately what has been done with those funds. 40 million for education sector enhancement, reform, change management. All of those units and nothing to show for it. But if you go on YouTube right now, you'll see the chief education officer and everybody else was dancing on that day, having a wonderful time, while our children cannot sit in an environment that is conducive for learning, that they cannot even take the opportunity. You know how much 40 million can do for our children in classes? You know how much 40 million could do for some children and their parents that cannot afford to send children to school? Comrades, we have to seriously consider why we have to win this next election. This is what we mean. This is what we have to do. We cannot allow this government to continue to act as pirates in the pockets of citizens. We cannot allow that. The days of piracy is done. We have to remind them that this is their last term in government. And if we cannot do it for ourselves, we have to do it for the children. We have to do it for them. And you know, as an advocate for children, you know I will be marching behind them because the children deserve better. Whoever voted for that group did not realize the consequences it would have had on our children. And just remember that this government was in, I don't even know what to call it. I can't even call it governance, power, regime, because sometimes they act like a regime. But at the same time, we recognize they've been there for 7 years. Now, comrades, if you think about it, 7 years ago, when a child was 10, that means that child did common entrance, went to secondary school. That probably, where is that child right now? We have to ask those questions. What has been the impact of that 7 years on our youth and our young persons? And we know that they haven't been doing much in terms of education. And the statistics are there. The facts are there, but they tend not to bring it to us. Education Reform Unit, 2023-2024, $800,000. That is the same education unit that told us, well, after a year, we can't do anything for you. After they've wasted all those funds. But the point is, we need to know where it went. And if you can't tell us now, when we get the reins of government, you will have to tell us where you put it. This is what is going to happen. And now, 2024, we're seeing the same kinds of numbers. $800,000. This is not pennies. This is our hard, you know how hard it is to wake up in the morning? Some of us have to catch bus, take care of our families, and we are making sacrifices. We are making sacrifices because we know things are very hard. But we're not complaining when you're taking the taxes from us. Even if you complain, you're still going to do it anyway. So many taxes every year, you add in taxes, but we're not complaining because we are hoping that you're a government of conscience and that you'll do what is right for the people. But they're not doing that. And we have to remember this is their last term. That's it. If we allow another term, we can almost imagine what it's going to be like in the next, we're not even saying 5, in the next year. So we have to think about what is happening as a society. Change management. The wonderful names. Change management. And they were supposed to be there in terms of education reform. Academy of Excellence. Remember that? The removal of 11 plus. Remember that? Yes. All of those consulting fees. Comrades, there is a time where we can get on a platform and say certain things. But today we have to know where the money is going. This is our money, and this is why we're seeing the symptoms of that kind of behavior. So we're seeing in 2024, 2025, we're seeing $1 million, $1,500,000. Yes? That was last year, about last year or so. That's change management, $1 million or more. And they're hoping in 2025, 2026, we're seeing $8 million. For the same unit that told us that they cannot do anything for us right now, we have to halt this program. Now they're asking us for $8 million. So when they go in Parliament very soon and debate the estimates, because this is the new estimates, and what is very interesting this time around is that under the change management unit, they're asking us, taxpayers, to give them another $8 million. They already had $1 million. They did absolutely nothing apart from merrymaking and confuse people in the public, because we still do not know whether we're having 11 plus, whether we have an Academy of Excellence. They just confuse everybody, including themselves. But now they're asking for another $8 million. But they have not been able to justify why are we going to give them that $8 million. But do you think our Minister for International Travels will approve that $8 million? Do you believe that the government will approve that $8 million? They will. Remember, friends and family. Friends and family. Everybody else except the citizens that work hard for what they deserve. Comrades, our people deserve better. Our children deserve better. And if we have not recognized that they are not here to serve us, The earlier we recognize that, the better for us. In another sense, we saw the news with special education and the Alma Parish School. Yes, they reopened, and I'm glad they did after so many years. But what was very interesting is that money was being allocated to that school even while it was closed. Yes, it's in the budget. It's in the budget. Because we all saw a few weeks ago they opened up the school, right? But if we look in the budget, we will see there was funding allocated for it. Where is that money? As I said before, we have a duty to ensure that every penny is returned. Every penny is retrieved. We need to know exactly who has it, where did it go, and what was done with it. Remember, who has it, what was done with it, and where did it go? We need to know every aspect of that ministry. We will surgically look in every aspect of it to see where that money has been spent. So as you can see here, we go with facts. It's right there. It's in the estimates. Okay? So 2022-23, there's 1,488,000. And the school, was the school open then? We saw in 2003, 2004, another million. So keep counting. So that's already what? 2,500,000. Within 2 years, that school still was not opened. And then we're seeing no details for 2024, no more details, but the details is now in this where they're asking for more money. But the question that we want to ask is that we expect this government to spend every cent that we give them to ensure that children with special needs get the type of intervention that is required for them. It is our duty as a society to protect every child, including children with special disabilities. And one of the questions that we've been asking, because I saw that they had a wonderful opening and everybody was smiling, but the question that we need to ask, where were those children when those millions were being taken from them? Huh? Millions of dollars. Where were those children? Were they at home within that year? And I could almost imagine how parents may have felt, how those children were disadvantaged. But then we have a minister of education who claims to care. I saw her hugging those children. And it hurt my heart to some extent, because you had millions of dollars and we still cannot account for it. We still cannot account for it. Because we know in the public that school was not open. And one of the things about this government is that every time they do something, they rush to the media. Hey, look at us, we're doing something. And I love it when they do that, because I'm keeping notes. I'm keeping notes. Because we know that all that time the school was closed. Yet millions was being pumped into it. But we're going to ask the same questions. Who has it? What was done with it? And where has it gone? We need to know those questions, and we need to know it very soon. So those kinds of questions, I believe that we need to look at what is happening. And one of the kinds of concerns that we have is the primary school levels. And I know they've had a lot of questions about that, because primary school children, because they come from nursery and then they go to primary school. And so sometimes in primary school, they're almost pre-adolescents. And so there's a lot of dynamics happening at that stage. But what we're seeing fundamentally is the levels of antisocial behavior starts at a very early age. And the statistics and research shows you that children at that age are more vulnerable than even teenagers, because that's when they're developing. That's when they're forming their identity. That's when they get a concept of morality. Right or wrong? Should I do the right thing? And that's why we're seeing all those kinds of questions are being asked. The violence in the schools, the potentiality of drugs being exhibited in those young persons. And I know that some of us may say, well, these children are very young, but remember, they're trying to form their identity. They're trying to find their role models at that age. And so primary school level is the most vulnerable stage in a child's life. Why? Because they say children develop their identity between the ages of 5 until probably 10 and 12. By the time they're teenagers, they have a hang of, semi who they are and what they like and dislike. So at primary school level, we have to be very, very mindful. We have to be very vigilant as to how we mold those young minds. And we also, as a society, have to be very reflective on the types of role models that we give our children. So when we have nothing wrong with reggae or dancehall, anything like that, but when we find leaders in the society are saying, yeah, we can have these people can be your role models, we have to be very careful the message that we send to young persons in our society. We have to be very careful. Because one of the things about youth is that they're very influential. And if we're saying to them as adults that, these could be your role model, these people could be, and there's nothing wrong with people being reformed. But we have to be very mindful what we tell children. And it's also what we don't tell them by just the way that we behave and what they see. And so we're seeing a lot of that, and we're seeing that kind of behavior being exhibited within our society. So the violence that we're seeing in schools is not only because they're young and they do not know how to articulate, it's also because of what they exhibit in society. They see it on the streets, they see it in the communities, and they believe that violence is just another form of communication. And I think it's very important that we are very mindful of that. When we go on social media, we see it. Our children are on the social media, they're on TikTok and all the wonderful things, but we have to teach them. We can't remove all of the bad elements in the world, but what we can do is to teach them the differences between right and wrong. And I think this is the problem with this regime. They cannot differentiate between right and wrong. It's blurred for them. So they love the idea of regathering and all that kind of fetting, but they seem not to remember that there are young persons in the society that are watching and observing what kind of leadership has been represented. And that's why I believe that we have a good leader. We have an outstanding leader because he has a clear understanding of morality and for our youth, what it means to be a good leader, what it is to project morality and moral behavior. Sometimes we'll get it right, sometimes we may not. But if we are to project a society where we expect our young persons to engage in certain types of activities, when we expect our persons to remove themselves from deviant behavior, it is very important that we understand that in our society, we need good leaders and representation for our youth. We cannot tell our youth that certain types of groups of persons are persons that you need to look at as role models. No. Even in my old age, we knew who the good role models are and who the bad ones were, the not so good. So we need to continue to teach that. So all of what we're seeing in terms of primary school, one of the things that I wanted to look at is, and one of the things the ministry does not do, is to provide the public with statistics. It is our response. We pay you. We need to know what is happening in our schools. We need to also know how our children are performing. And one of the things that I was able to pull out from the data, you look at in 2024, 2023, you'll see in terms of the full marks in mathematics. In 2023, can you imagine a child getting 35%? And in 2024, 9%. And common entrance is in a few months. So again, we will see the statistics for that. there is a decline in our education system. There's a decline in our students' performance in those areas. And why is it problematic? Because as they grow and as they develop, it will become more difficult for them to have the prerequisite for higher education. So when a child is performing at that level, when they get to secondary school, it becomes even more difficult for them to gather the concepts. And I think it's very important that the ministry, and that's why I'm appealing to our opposition leader, to ensure that those areas are highlighted, that the ministry has the responsibility to report to the public. If our children are failing in maths, English, and the sciences, tell us where. Tell us how we can help them. And also tell us, what are you doing with the money to help them? What are the interventions that you're doing for them? We cannot have our children look at maths, look at English. Comrades, these are factual data. And this is the last few years, and we can almost imagine if we continue with this government, we don't know what is going to happen. So all of those things is a very, very important to look at as well. And one of the things that we want to look at in terms of what can be done for teachers, secondary school and primary school teachers, we have to give teachers the support. They work very hard. In as much as we sometimes say, well, you know, they're a little too hard on our students, they work hard. They ensure that they do the best for our students. And also we know that our children need to have the type of intervention that is needed. So whatever kind of diagnostic testing is needed for them, let us do it for them. Let us put the money that we are allocating for the right purposes. The millions of dollars that you're saying that you're spending, let us put it the right place for our children so that our children can do better in those areas, that we have competent. Well, as I was saying to you guys, I told you that we have the right person, the right leader, one with the moral fortitude to take us where we need to go, one that we can tell our young persons, this is someone you can look up to. And these are the realities that we need to look at. So we need to have a commission, and we also need to know how those fundings are being spent, and the lack of transparency within the ministry. And one of the things that I charged the ministry, that we need the data. We need to know how our students are performing, and we need to know exactly where. If they are failing the math, tell us where. Is it arithmetic? Is it problem solving? Tell us where, so that we can help them, that we can do the intervention that is needed. Because one of the things that we know as every citizen and every member of this society, the education of our children is a gift that we give them. After life, education is a gift. And I think every parent in here, every grandparent, everyone, that we know no matter how hard it takes for us to work, we make sure that our children go to school. Yes. We make sure that we buy the books that they need. We make sure that we send them to school. We make sure that we give them something to eat. Even if we know that we have to deprive ourselves, because for us, education is a gift that we give our children. And so we cannot allow anyone, not even this government, to tarnish that gift in any way, to harm that gift in any way. So it is our responsibility, since they will not debate it in Parliament, we are asking them, we need to know where is that millions of dollars that have been allocated for those areas, that we need to find it. And we need you to tell us exactly where it is. And we will not stop, because the Democratic Labour Party is here for the people, and we will not stop. Thank you, comrades.
Good afternoon again. I guess you've heard Ms. Dujon, and I don't even know if you wanted her to stop. She was so dynamic. Our next speaker is a spokesperson on business, energy, and housing. The candidate for St. Michael Northwest, Mr. Ryan Walters. I can let her get her comfortable chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. I see Felicia have you all charged up. First, let me, on behalf of myself and the St. Michael Northwest branch, offer condolences to Comrade Chase, who was not only a DLP supporter, but he was a Northwest supporter. And any function, meeting that we had, you could sure to see Clay Chase supporting. So our condolences. And if you don't know, this is the St. Michael Northwest little posse there. Show your, keep some noise. Right. Yes, good. Not you. And we have our fundraising activity started, so every other week we have wings and the best fish cakes in Black Rock, down Black Rock, but we'll send out the notice. So we had our, well, we'll send out the notice so that you'll be there this Saturday coming. Not yet. No, but just to give a quick report card, the branch has been working not only to raise funds, but we have been on the ground for some time, and we have intensified our outreach to the constituents of St. Michael Northwest, and we are getting a very good response. So all is going to be well in St. Michael Northwest. This evening, I'm going to speak a bit about housing. I'm going to speak a bit about housing today. After giving the responsibility to be the spokesperson on housing, I was challenged. This is one of the first times that I'm actually really challenged with speaking on a topic or on a ministry. Nothing is happening in housing. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about in housing. Right? That is the challenge. The challenge is that there's nothing to talk about. False promises, wishy-washy dreams, and false hopes for Bajans. You heard it. 10,000 homes in 5 years. 6,500 homes in St. Lucie. We wait to see now next week at the conclusion of the gathering in St. Peter how much homes the minister can promise for St. Peter. But there's no hope in housing. But I want to have kind of a very serious conversation, because one of the things that the Democratic Labour Party has been guilty of is not explaining to Barbadians the state in which we receive the government. Right? And that is one of the areas that it is never too late to start to explain the state that we have received the government and the state that we have passed over the government to the Barbados Labour Party as well. But late last year, the Minister of Housing, is on record as stating that they built 1,323 homes since coming to office. That's 6 years. 6 years. 1,323 houses. But hold on. 974 from the public sector, driven from his ministry, supposedly. Now, if you subtract the 553 rebuilds from Hurricane Elsa, you are left with just over 400 homes that they have built in 6 years. The record is poor. You are not seeing Bajans being accommodated. Working class Bajans are not being accommodated in housing because no housing is being produced. And when it is, what little is being produced is out of the reach of working class people. You would hear me make the claim, and I will speak a little bit about it later, that there's nothing that Hope Inc. can do that the National Housing Corporation cannot do. So it makes no sense pumping $60 million in Hope, popping it up with directors, chairmen of boards, CEOs, all sorts of management, draining all its resources when most of those, if not all, resources are already housed in the National Housing Corporation. We did it as a party. That would take you back to hardwood housing that they implemented also in 2006, 2007. Always looking for opportunity to take money out of central government or out of the government and put in the control of their members that will lead these organizations. And I must say, and we don't have no accountability for the money, because since Hope was founded, we have not had a financial statement from that entity. It's a shame. We have not had a financial statement from the Trust Loan Fund either. So a lot of these entities that were formed in this government's tenure, we have not had any vision into it independently by auditors. And they're private entities, private corporations, and they need to be audited. The Auditor General cannot do it all. He's already scarce on resources. He does not have the resources financially or physically to do all of the investigations and all of the audits that he would want to do. But the record for the last 6 years, as per the Minister of Housing, is under 500 homes in the last 6 years. Poor record. Promised 2,000 homes for 5 years. A total of 5 years, a total of 10,000 homes in 5 years, which we know is nonsense. The actual record that they're on, average that they're producing, is 128 homes a year. 128 homes a year. I want to tell you that they're going to build 10,000 homes in 5 years, and 6,500 homes in St. Lucie, and only Lord knows how much in St. Peter and St. James, and coming up the line as they find something to say with the regathering concept. But the truth is that while I found it amusing, I also found it insulting. And it is important, as I said, that we go back to explain to Barbadians the state in which we found the ministries before we took office in 2008. Because remember, the Barbadians Day Party was a government for how many years? 14 years. A significant amount of time. So while we are industrious and we put our hands to the plow, our heads down to govern the country, we must share the state of affairs in government whenever we come to office after the next general election. So when I started to do some research, I found one document that says it all. It was a special audit on the National Housing Corporation. Special audit on the National Housing Corporation. And I want to share some of the details in the summary of this report. It is important that we understand, because everything that has played out before is playing out again. Everything that's played out before is playing out again, and is not to the benefit of the taxpayers. The first point on the summary, allow me to read. The National Housing Corporation is a state agency which has responsibility for the development of land and the construction of housing units for sale or rental to low and middle income persons. In addition, the corporation makes available loans for the purchase of land and houses. As of the 31st of March 2008, the corporation had a database of over 29,000 applicants for land housing solutions. But the minister will want you to believe that all of a sudden, in 2018, there is this high demand over the last 10 years, between 2008 and 2018, for housing. In March 31st, 2008, the demand was 29,000 applicants at National Housing Corporation. You understand that? Yes. It is nothing new. People want affordable housing. So the first notion that must be dismissed is that there's this whole brand new thing now that there's a demand for housing, and it has something to do with the period between 2008 and 2018. It is a lie. In 2003, and I continue, the corporation estimated that it had 850 acres of land at its disposal for housing development. However, it conceded that it did not have the financial capabilities to carry out infrastructural development on this land. The cost for such development was estimated at $200 million. The corporation therefore took a decision to involve the private sector in joint venture arrangements as a means of accelerating delivery of lands and housing to applicants. So 850 acres of land, a lot of land, no money to develop it. Furthermore, as we go on, you will see that the corporation, as at March 31st, was running an overdraft of $23 million as a norm. Always maxed out. That is what we get from the report. So we didn't come and find a National Housing Corporation that had booming finances, nor that had a dwindling application database either. We saw high demand for housing and bankrupt, no money. As we go down, you will see very few houses were built during that period of time also. So, obviously having no money and being bankrupt, they decided to go to cabinet, and the cabinet agreed that they will do private-public partnerships to develop housing. So, please just bear with me, because I need to read these things so you hear straight what the Auditor General was reporting. Is important, because when we get out there as candidates too, we need to know so we can defend the Democratic Labour Party and attack the Barbados Labour Party for not executing on housing for people. Because when we are canvassing, one of the big issues is affordable housing. It's a significant issue that ranks high with cost of living and employment when you knock on people's doors. Significant. It said to assist the developers that they chose, the corporation entered into agreements whereby the firms lease lands from the corporation. So they took the National Housing Corporation lands, they took our lands and leased them to corporations. And these leases were then used as collateral for the firms to obtain financing. So to put that in layman's, the bank will not give the contractor the loans unless they have security. So they to start to build the houses. So they leased the lands to the contractors or the corporations, and then they use it as security to start to build out the housing stock. The delivery of these houses by these developers has been very slow. This March 2008, talking about 14 years of the Barbados Labour Party administration in government. And the estimated 522 houses which should have been delivered, only 113 were completed. 113 out of 522 houses were completed in the period between 2003 and 2008. They do not have a good record on housing. In addition, 48 other houses were completed during this period in respect to the joint venture program, and that was in Blackmans, and that was in 2002. So that was just before the 5-year period. But in 5 years, leased the lands out, they were only able to get 113 houses completed out of a target of 522. Well, the truth is, at least they were not targeting 5,000 houses a year back then. But you can see here that they were also poor on delivery, like they are poor on delivery now. Because the 500 and something homes, some of that were built during this government's tenure, this current period, is because of Hurricane Elsa. It's rebuilding stock, it's not new homes. And we must differentiate between the two. When you rebuild a home, that means somebody was living in there already. It's not a new home. We're talking about new homes to Barbadians. And they're only at 400 and something homes in 6 years based on the report card that the minister gave. This is not something that I made up. But we go on. These included the slow pace in which the houses were built. Some of the reasons were, and they said that these included entering contractual arrangement without first ensuring the permission of the Town and Country Development Planning Division. And then they had to be stopped. Doesn't that sound familiar? What about Hope in St. John and Poole? They started foundations for about 50 or so homes, and they had to pull up handbrake on private lands too. This is the behavior of the government is something that has not changed. It is a systematic thing with them that they mess up everything that they have get their hands on because they just see money, but they don't know how to spend or manage money. Comrade Dujon just explained to you almost $500 million in education. $500 million. Not a new school. Not a new school. And that's just 1 year. You're talking about almost $3 billion in education, and the schools are run down. Schools are run down. There's no new schools that this government has built that they could justify saying that they have spent $3 billion in education and $40 million in the education reform unit. So it's not only education, it permeates through all of the ministries. It's $60 million in hope that we don't know where it's gone. Now understand the transaction of land and home and mortgage. If the government is providing land, the government should get some return for it. Albeit that they're providing it at a cost that a low-income earner can afford. But there's a return back to the government for that land. One of the mandates that was said is to, in addition, the corporation makes available loans for the purchase of land. And it specified low and middle income persons. So $60 million in land, that is $60 million given to an entity. The land is already there. owned by government, where the money gone? If you hand over 10 of those units, that means that 10 people went to the bank or the credit union and got a loan and gave it in to and purchased the property. The bank or the financial institution would have purchased the property and then you own them. You owe them, sorry. So money would be coming in. Money would be coming in. You get me? So $60 million can't disappear. Or it shouldn't disappear. It shouldn't disappear. All right, so we're talking about the record of the Barbados Labour Party. They don't have any record for us to talk about between 2018 and now. We're going back to come forward. In the executive summary, it said, a central aim of the corporation is to provide housing land to low and middle income earners. This is facilitated by the Ministry of Housing investing lands into the corporation for the construction of houses. However, it was observed that in excess of 80 acres of land were sold to private developers. Contrary to the decisions of Parliament, this resulted in less land being available to the corporation for its housing program. Who making the money off of the backs of hard working Barbadians? That's over 10% of the land bank. 850 acres they said they had of land at its disposal. 85%, 85 would be 10%. So close to 10% of the land that we own sold to private developers. But what that tells you, what a private person is interested in a return on his money. Get cheap land, sell it at market. That's what it is. So instead of carrying out a mandate to sell this land to low income earners, they put it in the hands of private developers. I spoke about the $23 million overdraft that they used to run day to day. It was broke, had no money. On 2 occasions, lands for which the infrastructure development was funded by the corporation were placed under the control of private developers for allocation to potential buyers. You want to hear what I just said? On 2 occasions, lands for which infrastructural development was funded by the corporation were placed under the control of private developers for allocation to potential buyers. Now you got 29,000 people in the database, and you put in the land to private developers to sell. There was no clear benefit for the corporation from this course of action. With applications in excess of 24,000, there was no benefit in allowing private developers to allocate land. It's right here. If you have 24,000 people that want land or want affordable housing, you can develop infrastructure and then put it in a private developer hands. It smells fishy. Yeah.
Everything fishy.
Listen, the record is poor. It says during the 5-year period, up to March 2008, the corporation had constructed only 226 houses through the joint venture and Primary Homes program. In contrast to the 1,600 that was the target. 200 and something homes. But you see, 200 something homes, but because the priorities were wrong, that's where you get such a record. Because it was about hardwood housing in the last 5 years. It was about passing the land to private developers for them to sell or for them to make a profit. It was not geared or focused on providing homes or land for low income and middle income persons in Barbados. But that is just part of the going back to give you an idea of the story for housing for the Barbados Labour Party. Now, you know, in contrast, our story for housing is very different. Because we have a lot to be proud about. And let's just turn to the facts document, which is not a full record of everything that we've done in housing. But we see Marchfield, St. Philip, Work Hall in St. Philip, Greens in St. George, French Village in St. Peter, Fort Hill in St. Peter, Woodburn, Arley Heights, River Crescent, Green St. George, The Grotto, Valerie, Fords Road, Country Park Towers, Stewart's Lodge, Sears Court. The Minister of Housing can't come and rattle off housing projects for the last 6 years, going 7 years now for this government. Cannot. But this is our record that we have to be proud of. And while we do not have welcome Amoy, Christchurch, East. Right, so all I'm saying is that we have a good record, they have none. And you can see the dismal record of the Barbados Labour Party showing also in the gross domestic product numbers. Because one of the things we pride ourselves in this administration and this party led by the Honorable Ralph Thorne, as how Felicia showed the facts. We look at the facts. We look at the facts. We don't want to come here and mislead you all and make you all feel that, you know, we just making statements and claims against the Barbados Labour Party. We bring the facts. And the facts are that based on the Central Bank report in 2024, construction has contributed $496 million to the gross domestic product of this country. In 2017, the last year in office, based on the previous Central Bank report, construction had contributed $492.9 million to construction. You're talking about a 6 or 7 year difference. With inflation over 20 to 25%. In other words, the cost of building supplies going up. The cost of labor going up. The cost of land going up. The cost of the transactions involved in construction has risen, but the gross domestic product for construction under this administration cannot pass $500 million over 6 years. Back to where we left it in 2017. So with all the considerations for the inflationary environment, which is real, because you can't, if you were building a house at $180 a square foot, you can't build $180 a square foot 6 years down the road. So it shows that they are building less and significantly less, which supports the report card that the Minister of Housing gave in Parliament late last year. It is all there. There's nothing to defend. We called for Hope to be closed down. The Democrat Labour Party called for Hope to be closed down. Close down Hope. We don't know how you spent the $60 million. All we know is that they got houses in St. James that don't have solar roofs, solar panels. We don't know how much are occupied, because as much as they say they're occupied, just take a stroll or drive past that neighborhood. And you don't get to see the curtains. You ever see Bajans live in a house without curtains? And you don't get to see the curtains. And you don't get to see the solar panels. But the concept of hope, home ownership, provided energy, is wrong from the start. Because any system that goes on the rooftop of a person that is paying a mortgage, that person that is paying the mortgage should have the benefit of the renewable energy system on their roof. Don't tell me you can put a system on somebody's roof, you can lease it from them because you're giving them the land, and you're going to earn back your money over 20 years, by getting all the revenue from the light and power on the solar system. It's wrong. If I live in a house and we making $300 or $400 a month from the energy, I, as a homeowner, as a person that is paying the mortgage, should get that check. I should be able to put a little AC unit for the summertime to blow in the bedroom if I feel like. I should be able to have my little small business operated from my home and saving on my electricity costs, because I am the homeowner. The relationship is between me, the homeowner, and the financial institution that gave me the mortgage. Not me, the government, and the financial institution also. Because up to now, we don't even know who owns the properties. I don't understand the legalities of the transaction in totality either, right? But the point is, and even without giving the cost of the land in the mortgages, the houses are still very expensive for low-income persons. But Hope is a failure. They have nothing to be proud of. Home ownership poorly executed is Hope. Not home ownership provided energy. Home ownership poorly executed. But we are concerned about Hope because lands continue to be vested in Hope. And that is why we called for Hope to be shut down. Because only after the leader of the opposition was in Parliament complaining about Hope and vesting lands in Hope, although the investigations were not complete, is when we started to see a transition back to vesting in the National Housing Corporation, correct? Yes. Only after we made a song and dance, Comrade Ralph Thorne, leader of the opposition, made that song and dance in Parliament, did we start to see the vesting back of lands back into the National Housing Corporation, where they should be in the first place. So you cannot continue to pump taxpayers' money into Hope by the millions and hundreds of millions to pay expensive consultants, expensive sums of money, large sums of money, to have a management team and a management structure and a board and all sorts of contract arrangements with we don't know who. When you have a National Housing Corporation that can facilitate all of that activity and build homes, and they have a database with over 20,000 people that want homes. So what are you doing when you have 29,000 people registered at the National Housing Corporation, you set up Hope, and then they have people registering directly into them too? Are you only confused in the situation? There's no order of what's happening. So there's no guarantee for a person that registered 10 years down the line, 10 years ago with National Housing Corporation to get a house at Hope or any other project that the government do or does. Because they're just wild. They do not know what they're doing. There's not any order or common sense. Not only are they squandering taxpayers' money, but they're disadvantaging the persons that themselves have to pay back the loans. A low-income earner is a critical person in this economy because there's more low-income earners than there are middle-income and, wealthy. And what do? They consume more. They go to the supermarket. They pay their bills. VAT is generated. They pay the national insurance. PAYE. They contribute significantly to the economy and they cannot be ignored. So, comrades, I don't know if I need to also share that, because you all should have seen it in the media recently. When the steel frame houses falling apart, but not only the place falling apart, mold, mildew, ceiling coming down. And the minister says, that's small. That's an easy fix. Insulting. But when the houses were being handed over, I remember a big smile and a ribbon cutting ceremony. And then my last 8 months. They take 4 years to build, and then my last 8 months. Because when the Democratic Labour Party was saying to the government to let the contractors build these houses and help rebuild Barbados, could you imagine you are coming out of a COVID environment? 2 years when artisans and small contractors did not get any work. And a hurricane came. Houses were lost and damaged. And the government said, no. We can import the houses. They're going to be cheaper. It can be faster. They can last longer. They can be stronger. They can't even take the Jew on the night. Can't take a strong wind. Furthermore, if Lord forbid, another hurricane passes our shores. But that disadvantage the contractors, small businessmen, and artisans, and our youth. Because the young men that come out of school and stuff like that would have gotten opportunities to go and learn on the job. That is how they learn. Everybody don't go to the Polytechnic. I know small contractors that pass blocks and pick up men and carry them. And they do labor work and they learn a trade, and that's how they develop. Everybody don't have to go to the Polytechnic and get a certificate. So that they killed the construction industry without just one act. And then when you hear the show, a project that was supposed to cost $27 million or thereabout, and it had having cost overruns of $24 million. You hear this nonsense? $60 million in Hope. 24 and 27 is what? 24 and 27 is what? 51. Thanks for the help. Close to $120 million. Houses have not even been finished constructed yet, and the ones that are constructed falling apart. Taxpayers' money gone. $60 million of Hope, we don't know where it's gone to. But then you would see that they will bring a budget estimated excess of total expenditure over current revenue, meaning a deficit of $1.1 billion. This is the Barbados Labour Party government, and this is their record in housing. I'll be honest, I have not looked at this yet. Have not, Comrade Leader, I have not looked at this yet. I have just been reading the comments in the media. I've just been reading the comments in the media because I cannot understand, I cannot come to the recognition that after running $1 billion deficit last year, and we have not gone back, just last year, you will come and run a $1.1 billion deficit this year. So are you ready to hear how many new schools get built? Are you ready to hear how we can equip the polyclinics across the country to ease the strain off of the QEH? I want to hear how much roads will be fixed, repaired. So I am waiting for the other side of the story because it does not make sense, the amount of money that is being spent by this government, and we are not seeing it in our communities, in our neighborhoods, where we work, where we go to school, where we go to town, etc. Agriculture is a shame. So, comrades, we have nothing to be ashamed about. We should be proud of our achievements in housing, especially when compared to that of the Barbados Labour Party. Current and previous. I can't talk anymore, I get signal to end. But there's a lot to talk about. And the last thing that I would just touch briefly, because I like to talk about things that I write to make sure that you all understand. The reserves of $3.1 billion or 31 weeks has been used as a trophy for the government. And we question it not because we question the amount of reserves, but we know that the money is borrowed, and we are questioning the amount that is costing taxpayers. We are questioning the amount that it is costing taxpayers. We are not questioning the amount of reserves per se, but we know that they have been borrowing a lot of money to get the reserves to that point, and there are implications for you and your families, and now your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, because they're going to borrow another $1.1 billion again. But there are implications, and I shared it. It's going to cost approximately $92 million alone in this fiscal period that ends in March. And about almost $400 million it will cost taxpayers in interest payments to keep the reserves high. Right? So at the end of the day, we will not be distracted by the social media comments and those BLP young socialists or whoever they are. The point is that our information is grounded in facts. And if the government sees any flaws in our analysis, we will have the discussion. We are not perfect, but we are open to discussing it. We have heard no discussion from the government on it publicly. Same way we have heard no discussion on the fact that you had to wait 15 months before the gas prices come down. And in 2 months now, it came back up. So 15 months, it did not come down, although all indications were that the prices was low, significantly lower, and we continued to pay $4.22 because the government wanted us to. And because the government is trying to raise money to fix the deficits. And our calculations reveal that it could cost you and the neighbors and everybody in Barbados that uses diesel and gasoline between $40 to $60 million for that 15-month period that you have overpaid because the government was unconscionable in that decision not to reduce the price at the pump when the prices on the international market were down. Are you waiting for the conversation? Because there's two things. They're either buying bad, going into arrangements that don't benefit the taxpayers, and should be called out. Right. They're not coming out and saying anything, you know. So somebody made a boo-boo. I'm not sure if it was the boo-boo minister, but somebody made a boo-boo. And it cost you $40 to $60 million because they did not adjust the price down over that 15-month period. So again, the working class people are propping up this country and should be respected. The government promised to increase minimum wage in the last budget. And instead of the Barbados Workers Union fighting that cause, they're concentrating on individual entities. While that is fine, the leader of the Barbados Workers Union sits in Parliament. I have not been championing the cause of all the Barbadians and the promises of her government to increase the minimum wage across the board. When the minimum wage situation came up a few years, when it was established, I said it is not a minimum wage. It is a minimum wage rate. Once an employer can change your hours, you do not have a guaranteed pay. So it is not a minimum wage. It is a minimum wage rate. But we want to see the same energy in that person to benefit all the Barbadians. The persons that working in the supermarkets, persons that work in gas stations, persons that work in the hotel sector. You ain't see that so in the hotel sector? I know people in the hotel sector that work in 30 hours. They get a little more now because it's tourism season, and you know what? They're all going home. And a lot of them going home come May this year until November. So we are not questioning what results, what they achieved. As a union, I am saying that the Barbados Labour Party promised an increase in minimum wage in the last budget. It is now approaching a year, and we are now going in the well of Parliament this week to discuss the 2025 to 2026 budget, but there has been no increase in the minimum wage for working class Barbadians. We have been summoned to Parliament many times for concessions, to give concessions for persons that are supposedly bringing investment in this country. And we support investment. Also support what is fair. And if inflation is rising at such a rate over the last 6 years, over 20%. In other words, if something that costs $1, it should now cost $1.20. And if you promise to relook at giving a minimum wage increase since last March, give it. Yes. Yes. Give it before March come around again.
and then talk about it fresh, about another increase. Talk about moving the minimum wage rate to a minimum wage where a person knows how much money they can get because the employer cannot fiddle with the hours and disadvantage them. That is the conversation that we should be having, a national conversation that should be championed by the unions. You have not heard the Minister of Labour on it. You have not heard the new champion on, or the new champion on wage negotiations on it. These are serious issues. Because while inflation is rising, spending power is diminishing. You have a situation, one more point. You have a situation also where crime is now affecting business. Because the PSV says that they are reconsidering now working after a certain time. So what will that mean for workers? What will that mean for workers? And the Transport Board is saying they can't help. But for they have regathering, and they're shuttling people down to regathering with the state Transport Board buses. They got ideas forum, and they're shuttling people down to the ideas forum in the state Transport Board buses. But when it comes to the workers now, again, the working class people that go and stand up at bus stop, can't get home. Go and get taxi now. You already have a poor system after a certain time. And for them to make that announcement and there'll be no response from the government, no response from the union to say that this is something that needs addressing because the safety of our workers are paramount. The safety of our workers are paramount. But they will respond, I can bet you they will respond when the business people start to cry out. That is when you will get the reaction from this government. When the owners of the businesses start to cry out, but when the Bajans have to stand at the bus stop and can't get a bus at night, and then our females, our mothers, our aunts, our sisters, those are who are out there working late at night at the bus stop. So they're going to face this crime situation because they can't get home. And again today, you see that they have not given access to the $3 million to the Transport Authority either, that they could borrow money to get new vehicles and get the energy efficient vehicles, etc., to save our fuel. But them wanting to save our fuel, God got the price of gas and diesel up in the air. And they're making a lot of tax dollars on it. So do not expect that from this Barbados Labour Party government. There are consequences to every decision. And unfortunately, the consequences of every decision of this Barbados Labour Party is significantly disadvantaging Barbadians. Pretty talk. A lot of pretty talk. So comrades, do not fear. Comrade leader is going to be busy for the next, how much weeks? About 2 weeks. For the next 2 weeks in Parliament. When you get a chance, go and support him. Carry a bottle of water. He don't drink Zafra Hills and these things. He drink expensive bottle of water. So go and get a nice glass of expensive bottle of water. Yeah, the fancy name. Look for the fanciest name and bring it for Comrade Leader. Right? We need the support. Senator Worrell and myself, we will have our time. And at the branch meetings, I assume that we will also be dissecting some of the information and some of the outcomes of the discussions in Parliament over the next 2 weeks. But I thank you very much for listening to me. I wish you a wonderful evening.
Thank you once again, Comrade Ryan. You know, we were supposed to speak for half an hour. But certainly that is impossible. You know, we move on to the next speaker. We move on to the next speaker, who should be shorter, hopefully. Well, I introduce to you now Senator Andrea Worrell.
All right, good night to everyone. And as this is the first meeting of the St. Michael Central Branch after being officially selected as a candidate, I wish to thank the members of the branch, and I look forward to working with them and the support, and definitely we will continue our work in the constituency, getting out there, knocking on doors, doing the canvassing, and hearing the needs of the people of St. Michael Central and carrying the message of the Democratic Labour Party. I also want to thank the speakers who went before me tonight, Comrade Felicia Dujon. I am certain that if Felicia Dujon was the Minister of Education in Barbados,
things will be better.
exactly,
Things will be better.
things would be a whole lot better.
Things will be better.
Right now, Barbadians, our children have very little hope in our school system.
Oh yes.
Every single week there is a problem, and causing Felicia Dujon to use up all of the ink at the Nation and the tape at Starcom Network, one of the most prolific sportspersons that this party has, along and all because the Barbados Labour Party does not know how to deal with education in Barbados, and they do not know how to do right by our children.
I take my hat off to John.
Exactly. And I am looking forward for Felicia Dujon being in Parliament at some point in time after the bell is rung, and for her continuing to work the way how she is right now, because we need to fix the problems in Barbados, and people like Felicia Dujon will do that. Along with our another prolific sportsperson, Mr. Ryan Walters, Senator Ryan Walters, who did an excellent job here tonight and continues to deliver and deliver and deliver. He has he has kept this government on their toes when it comes to things with regard to energy. And I want you to don't that one cent hurting me right now. So continue to advocate for that, because it is not only hurting me, but it is hurting the economy. Because don't care how much paper growth they're talking about, this Barbados economy is underperforming because it is being overtaxed. Once before you heard, you cannot tax your way out of a recession. You cannot tax your way to bring about growth. And that is what is happening now in Barbados. All of the productive sectors in this country are struggling. And this country is only recognizing paper growth because of the borrowings. Whenever our travel prime minister returns to Barbados, right now she is on a vacation in Africa. No, or holiday in Africa. And I am certain that when she comes back here, she will tell you there's another loan. So just listen out for the amount. And all of these loans that the Barbados Labour Party has been borrowing, you're not seeing the productivity in the country. You are not seeing the social safety net in the country. Because as Ryan spoke about tonight, housing is still a problem. When you go through St. Michael Central constituency, you will be glad to see urban development working within this constituency, and also St. Michael Northwest as well, and the city, all of the urban constituencies. In terms, there are a lot of the housing stock needs repair. A lot of young people need access to housing to raise their families so that they can grow and expand their families. But none of these things we are seeing under a Barbados Labour Party government, which has borrowed, they reduced the debt, they took away 1.3 billion from NIS, but then they went and borrowed back every single cent and more, and has this country in a deeper debt crisis than which it was in before. And as a result of that, we are still not seeing nothing in the social safety net. Our schools are in crisis. Every week a school is closing because of environmental problems, because they're too cheap to clean up the schools properly. Right now the schools are closed because of COWICH, because they're not doing anything in agriculture. And I know that our spokesperson for agriculture and candidate for Christchurch East, Amoy Gildenborn, will deal with that. She has been dealing with it already. And when she becomes the Minister of Agriculture in this country, I know that we can once again see growth in agriculture. She's going about the country giving out fruit trees, which are important, because you recognize how important agriculture is to this country, how important it is that you must be able to feed yourself. Now you have a situation where there's a global trade crisis with the US threatening to introduce tariffs. And it is not only the trade crisis, but you also have things such as the egg shortages because of the bird flu. And we don't have enough milk on the markets here. All because this Barbados Labour Party government, over the last, how many years they were in? 7 years that they were in, squandered every single opportunity for growth and development in this country. All of the productive land has COWICH because they're not growing anything on it. You cannot, I always make this comparison. You can't go nowhere and get a rod of sweet potatoes for $25. You can't even get sweet potatoes for $3 a pound. And that shows that it is hurting us in our pockets, because it means that we have to stretch our dollar further in order to put a meal on the table every Sunday. It's at yam more than $5 a pound. The chicken, you can hardly find chicken, you can hardly find eggs in Barbados. And the Barbados Labour Party government wants to give people the impression that things are well in Barbados. Not boat here. Not the Barbados that we living in. It is not good at all. We all feeling it in our pockets. We all seeing it in our plates when we put them on the table. When we go into the supermarket, you gotta count the things in tens before you put them in the basket.
Spend $200 in the supermarket now. You have to go over.
Exactly. And yet still no increase of the minimum wage. Yet still to have people, when Ryan was speaking just now about the Barbados workers, he forgot to mention the NUPW too, because they got some people that working in government who should be treated better. The people who are working in NCC, who have been working there for more than 3 years, week on, week off.
Oh, yes,
A
that's
government that want to tell you that this country is doing well.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. My son working inside that country, that program, NCC 360 and 720 program.
Exactly.
Because
Week on, week off.
working there now going for over 5 years.
And cannot get a job letter to take to the bank to get a loan. Cannot get a job letter to go to courts to bring out a bed. Cannot get a job letter to do anything. And they want to tell full Barbadians that this country is doing well. The NUPW needs to speak out for them, and I am hoping that the Barbados Workers Union and MP Tony Moore also advocate for those people who the Barbados Labour Party government are unfairing and victimizing. That is victimization in this country. When you have young people in Barbados getting up on mornings to go to a job, and the government not paying NIS for them. So are you not only young people, because these are,
Telling them that they have to pay and NS on their own.
and then when they go to the NIS to pay that, the NIS telling them that they're not self-employed. They're not self-employed. And you have a government with a prime minister that is traveling all about Africa and telling people how to deal with their problems, but cannot settle and solve none of these injustices here in Barbados. She should be shamed to go anywhere and tell anybody about human rights, and tell anybody about labor laws, and tell anybody about protecting the social safety net of Barbadians or in any other country. You need to come home. You need to stay home, Prime Minister Motley, and deal with the problems here in Barbados. You see our Prime Minister more often featured in the news when she is giving a speech in a foreign country, talking about things which are above her head. Above her head, talking about climate change, and she can't even deal with the fishermen here in Barbados properly. Talking about climate change, and took people 4 years, as Ryan would have said, to get back into a house after the storms destroyed them, and now the same house is falling down on them. You feel that she got any right traveling all across the world, all across the globe, giving people the impression that things are fine and dandy here in Barbados, when we both here suffering? When there are people who would like to contribute to their pension through the NIS, but she's denying them of that opportunity. And if the government is doing it, what is stopping the private sector from doing the same thing? These are things that we need to have discussed in Barbados. These are things that we need for our Prime Minister to spend some time on this rock talking about. Don't just go to the, what was the foolishness that they call it, that dying down all of a sudden? Not the one with the gathering, It dead already. See, it's so dead you can't even remember the name. You can't even remember the name. Instead of going from constituency to constituency and bringing up the same issues year after year after year, spend some time in Bay Street in that office and call in a few ministers and ask them, how are we going to address the needs of Barbadians? How are we going to get some houses built by Urban Development Commission in St. Michael's Central constituency? How are we going to get some of the roads done in this constituency as well? Unfortunately, the cricketers didn't really travel through none of the roads in St. Michael Central. So you still got the potholes there. All over Barbados. But you need to spend some time addressing the issues in health care as well. I noticed that in this budget, there's an increase in the provision for the Ministry of Health, which is a much needed increase. Because over the years, the Barbados Labour Party government has been operating under an old philosophy in terms of global trend, trying to reduce their expenditure in health care and passing on more out-of-pocket expenses to you, the average Barbadian. Where that model may have been okay prior to COVID-19, it is not the justifiable model after COVID. And the world over, the trend is for governments to increase their spending in healthcare to enhance the system, because we don't know when there will be another pandemic, the likes of COVID. So you need to have a healthcare system that is resilient and able to respond to any crisis at any time. Not only that, but as a result of COVID, you have more persons turning up to accident and emergency, going to their doctors with medical issues, some of which were neglected during COVID because of the period of time in which you were shut up and not necessarily getting to see your general practitioner, and also the period of time where surgeries were not happening. So there's a backlog within the system. So you need now, and globally it has been happening, where you need to modernize your healthcare sector. I find it curious though, that even though they have increased the spending is still minuscule in the areas that really need it. Barbados has a crisis with NCDs, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol. It is best to tackle those challenges head on before by introducing people to healthier lifestyles, which include a proper diet, which include a proper exercise program. Now, the ministry has a wellness program, and I do not understand how a government that wants to give Barbadians the impression that they're serious about wellness can only allocate less than $425,000 a year for that wellness program to run fitness programs within communities, to run seminars within communities, and they want to give you the impression that the NCDs and bringing down the incidence of NCDs are important to delivering proper health care in Barbados. But you want to tell Barbadians that you have a budget of how much? Over $5 billion? $5 billion. And you could only find $425,000 to allocate to an area that is so important to helping Barbadians get back on track with a healthy lifestyle. How can how many fitness programs can $425,000 run? How many fitness programs can $425,000 run in Barbados in a year? You should be having $425,000 allocated to every single constituency in Barbados, so that where you have elderly people at home, because a lot of them are afraid to go out in the morning and walk because of the crime, and they definitely ain't going in the evening to do it either. But if structured programs were organized for the elderly during the day, close to their community, they will come out and get some exercise. And they would also engage in a proper diet as well. And not just for the elderly, but you need to do something for the middle-aged people. The middle-aged people as well. The ones who are still working, that they can find it easier to access proper exercise. Now, funny thing, right? Last week, I guess this happened unfortunately, the former Minister of State in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Brown, reminded Barbadians that she was, after they booted her out of the Ministry of Health, the place gave her the responsibility to chair and coordinate the wellness program in Barbados. Now, over an entire year, this was since 2023, have y'all seen anything from Dr. Brown or this wellness program in Barbados? No. So you see how this Barbados Labour Party administration is operating? They kick you out of the cabinet, but then they give you a cushy job, to a little piece of money to keep you quiet, but you ain't doing nothing for all the money. So I would like to hear what is Dr. Brown doing with this program in Barbados? What are the activities that they're bringing forward? And not only that, how do you expect her to spend $425,000 to bring about a realistic, meaningful wellness program in Barbados, especially when we all know that when you go to accident and emergency, a lot of the people there are there because of non-communicable diseases. The blood sugar too high, the blood pressure too high, or they're on the verge of a heart attack. So Barbados is one country that could benefit from that, a wellness program across all of the 30 constituencies, touching every single household and every single community. You can't do it with $425,000. And that just goes to show that this Barbados Labour Party government under the travel Prime Minister have their priorities wrong. Because those are the things that you need to spend the money in, because it could also employ young people and give them a little bit of hope. There are a lot of young people in Barbados who are interested in fitness. There are a lot of young people in Barbados who are interested in nutrition. You can imagine if you gave them contracts. I would accept the contract under this situation. You gave them contracts to organize fitness and wellness programs at a community level. You tell the doctors, you can refer some of your patients to these people. These are the things that this government should be spending money on. It would give hope to the people in Barbados. It will give constructive employment and meaningful employment to people. Don't tell the young people in Barbados that after Errol Barrow gave us free secondary education, that all you can do is to go and clean a gully, or all you can do is to clean up trash against the road. And trust me, they're not doing as good a job as the women who used to do it years ago working with NCC and Parks and Beaches. They're not doing a good enough job. You got far more people doing the same job that 10 women used to do and do it efficiently. But that is not the jobs that I don't believe that Barrow envisioned, that after more than 60 years of education, that our young people would have to come out of school and beg for a job cutting grass, and you don't even give them the proper utensils to cut and clean up the grass. That is a government that does not care for the people of Barbados. That is a government that will continue to keep us down, and we can't continue to allow it. We have to speak up. We have to speak out, and don't let them give you the impression that the Democratic Labour Party is not ready, because we are. Yes. And this meeting alone this evening is testimony that we are ready. Last weekend we had more than two branch meetings. This weekend we have this branch meeting, so we are going around. We are connecting with the people and we are communicating, because we have a good leader in the Honorable Ralph Thorne. And when you hear him speaking out in Parliament, you can hear the passion, you can hear the fire, and you can hear the commitment. And you know what? He has them scared. One man has 29 people in there tuttering, getting up to make points of order, but making points of speeches. just to try to shut him up or to throw him off of his course, because they know that he is bringing the information that the people of Barbados want to hear. They know that he is showing up the folly and the foolishness of their ways. They know that as long as Barbadians hear him speaking, the cry would be for Ralph Thorne to come and rescue this country. And with the help and the support of the Democratic Labour Party, we will take this country away from the travel Prime Minister, and we will send her on a retirement leave to Africa. If she like it, she could go to Ghana. She can retire to Ghana. She may not get to retire to UN, but she could definitely retire to Ghana. And the Democratic Labour Party is ready to send her on that retirement leave. You travel a lot and you take vacations a lot because you are tired. So retire her. Send her home because she is not doing anything to benefit the people of Barbados. But I am certain that she is benefiting from all of this, but all of us are suffering. And that is the mandate of the Barbados Labour Party at this time, to keep us down, to keep us suffering. The reason why they're not giving those people contracts or giving them, appointing them to the civil service, because they want people to come and constantly beg them, so that they believe that they have a vote that they can hold on to. That they are prostituting people in Barbados for a vote. They are keeping away your national rights and your dignity because they want you to beg them and have to come to them and depend on them so that you would vote them back in. But that is not what it is about. That is not what politics in 2025 should be about. And the Democratic Labour Party is ushering in a new philosophy in politics where we will restore dignity to the people of Barbados. You don't have to beg for your national rights. You don't have to beg for what your tax dollars pay for. It is yours by your right. We just ask you to give us your vote because you believe that we can do something for you. We are not asking you for a vote in promise or exchange for the money, or in promise or exchange for the job. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how you vote, when you put your application into the personnel administration and you qualify for the job, you should be offered the job once the space is available. It should not matter which MP send you. It should not matter which constituency live in. Or it should not matter how you voted in the last election or how you intend to vote in the next election. As long as you are qualified for the job, give it to you. As long as you are in need of the job, give it to you. As long as you are in need of the welfare assistance, you have a right to get a bill paid for you, because that is what you are sent to do as a parliamentarian. And I would hope that all of the Democratic Labour Party candidates in here, I see Dale Rowe from the city, Nathaniel Boyce from St. Michael's South, Amoya mentioned her name before, but all of the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party, stick to that. Do not exploit people for a vote. If they come to you for assistance and you can, help them. If you cannot help them, explain to them that you can't, but you still find a way of making things better for them. That is the correct way to deal with politics. That is the correct way to deal with people. And you may not always know the solution to a problem, because the constituents, this is where you come in. Some of you may also have the solutions for the MPs. So this is where we need constituents backing and supporting us and dialoguing with us, because we may not always know the appropriate solution, but within the constituency, you might be able to find an answer or find a solution. And that is what we need to do, to communicate with each other and work to help each other. And I am hoping that under Ralph Thorne, with Felicia Dujon and all of the other candidates, that is the philosophy that the Democratic Labour Party will take into the next election, so that when we win the government, we will do right by all Barbadians. So don't worry about all of the talk coming from the Barbados Labour Party. You have an estimate document of lies. All I can tell you is that if we have a $5 billion economy, that $5 billion is not coming from tourist receipts, because a couple of weeks ago, which is strange in Barbados, in January and February, you saw guest houses and hotels in Barbados offering staycation packages to locals. Those are things that don't come about not till after April. And obviously that signals that our tourism sector is underperforming. And you know that it is underperforming because we have to recognize that, look, this high cost of living in Barbados is impacting us in a number of ways. If you travel around, go into the supermarkets, go into the tourist areas, you hear the visitors complaining. I wouldn't call the name of the place, but the other day I was in this place and some cruise ship passengers passed and came in and they checked the prices of the things on the display. And they said, no, that's too expensive. So obviously it is a reputation that we are developing. It's no longer sweet Barbados. It is expensive Barbados. And as a result of that, fewer people are coming because you can go to other destinations and you can get a better package at cheaper price. So in order for us to become competitive, this Barbados Labour Party government going to have to tell the IMF, no, we cannot continue to increase taxes like that, because it is causing too much burden on our economy, on our citizens. And we're going to have to start doing the things that would help to fix the problems in our country. Oh, like no, the VAT should have been dropped from 17.5% probably to 15% to give the business people and to give the average householder an ease. Because you are dealing with inflation and prices going up. So why aren't they talking about reducing the VAT from 17.5% to 15%? When you travel across Barbados at night, the crime situation, gas stations close at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. So therefore you can't go to no nightclub and leave at 2 and expect to go in the gas station and buy a hot dog and a Coke and go home, because the gas station shut at a long time. Correct. And that is another signal that the economy is underperforming. But they have to be safe to themselves as well. Last week started out, 2 vehicles robbed, one in a gas at gunpoint, one in a gas station. Exactly. At gunpoint. These are things that you have to look out for. Then you had a supermarket in Market Hill that would normally be open till 8:30 every night. Robbed during the, I passed there at 4 o'clock in the evening, the door closed, the police out there, robbed at gunpoint. All of these are things are causing the economy to underperform, because the average person will not go and put their cart next to the road to sell pigtails, because the first thing I think that somebody can come and rob them. You are not going to put a bread cart next to the road right now, which is something that Barbadians have a custom of doing during hardship. You go to Purity or you go to Zephyrin and you get the bread on consignment and you sell them next to the road. It still helps you to pay a light bill, to buy some food in the house. But you are not going to do that because you are afraid that somebody gonna rob you. And this Barbados Labour Party government is not addressing these things. They won't come and tell you how much money they paid to they paid for the peace program, and the peace program still ain't working. What they need to be doing is give some of that money to community development, so that community development can have meaningful programs within the districts to take some young people off of the road. meaningful sports programs as well. Because if you engage young people in sports, you would have an opportunity to speak to their mind as well. You might be able to turn someone away from a devious lifestyle. So the opportunity that you have to engage them in football, basketball, volleyball, or cricket, use it wisely, because then you can also change their lifestyle and their way of thinking. But none of these things are happening in Barbados. So where is the money going? Right now it's going back to paying the same debt. So we're in a trap. We are in a crisis. And one of these days, the IMF will come a-calling, because they don't give you money for free. You gotta be able to pay back these loans. And we have borrowed more of our money on the foreign market, which means that the Barbados dollar is tied to that. You remember in the 1990s, we were very afraid of that word, devaluation. Well, if you can't pay your foreign loans, devaluation is the next step. And when your dollar is devalued, you don't get out of that trap so easily. Look at the exchange rate for the Jamaican dollar right now. When it was in Jamaica, it was 61 to 1. Now it's 120 something or more to 1. Look at the cost of the Guyana dollar. Thankful, well, Guyana at least have oil that they can almost pick up themselves. But if we're killing ourselves here in Barbados and undermining the tourism industry, we are not doing anything in agriculture. We're not doing anything in manufacturing. How are we going to pay back these foreign loans? How are we going to pay back these foreign loans when they become due? And right now, the travel prime minister is just hopping around the continent. Like, is Eldora, what's your name? Like Dora. Hopping around the continent, like the planet like Dora, but not dealing with any of the issues in Barbados, because she knows that when she is ready to leave government, that those loans will still have to be paid, but she's not going to be the prime minister that will have the headache. But you have to remember that Mayor Motley had a hand in any future hardship that this country faced. She is the person that went and borrowed the money. She's the person that did not invest in any productive avenues. We still need a sewage plant. We still need a desalination plant. All of these things we still need. So we still have to go and borrow money for all of these things. So where is the money going to come from? And these things are necessary for the productivity in this country. You recognize that nearly every day the electricity going off, and then when the wind blow too high, exactly, and when the wind blow too high, it blow away the internet. All of this is happening because we need to pay serious attention to the infrastructure in this country. All of these are things that the Mayor Motley administration neglecting. They go and do cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery more or less on the highways. Roads that were pretty okay, but they got a smooth road to repave it. Then they come back in 2 years to do the same thing again. You know what that is all about? It is an opportunity for the Barbados Labour Party government to put money into their friends and family pocket through contracts. And I am hoping that the information will come out soon, because they really need to give the Public Accounts Committee the right opportunity to call the heads, not the heads, but the matters that need to be investigated. Because you can't tell me that some of that money ain't recircling to certain people. It is all about putting contracts in the hands of friends and family. And none of them in there, Douglas, Leopold, Phillips. You could bet your life on that. And none of them are given to the average person in Barbados. So they are living high off the hog, and we're suffering. We need to recognize that we can take this government from the Barbados Labour Party. Not that we can, but we have to. We have to if we want to secure Barbados and have a future for our children, the children that will sit down at these desks tomorrow. You got to make sure that their future looks bright, and it's not going to look bright under the Barbados Labour Party. You have to make sure that the elderly can retire with dignity, not forcing people to work to 67, 68, and 70. You should be home taking care of your grandchildren and the great-grands, and if you were home doing that, you will have less problems with deviance among the young people. You need to have our grandparents having time to take care and raise their children. They can't do that if you have them working to 60, to 65, 70, and going down the road. So we need to bring back some level of dignity in Barbados for Barbadians. Barbados is for Barbadians, is not for the rich people that come in from outside. Yes, we need their investment, but we in Barbados must also enjoy the benefits of this rock as well. So I want to end tonight on that note. And I want to thank you all for coming out. And we had an excellent meeting. Let us continue this journey. The Democratic Labour Party is alive and well. And what are we going towards? Victory. We are looking to win the government in the next election. I am looking forward to your support in St. Michael Central and Ryan in St. Michael Northwest. Nathaniel in St. Michael South, Dale Row in the city, Amoy in Christchurch East, and of course, this man needs a change of title, no longer leader of the opposition, but Prime Minister of Barbados. I thank you.
Without wasting time, as the gentleman say, let's have our Prime Minister.
Where are Prime Minister?
I will. I will. Good evening. How are you? Let me say thanks. Good evening, Annette Pigott. Look, this lady. Stand up, stand up. Stand up, Annette. Stand up. Last year. Annette Wood, please stand up. Last year, when we had a little incident. That is all I will say. That lady, Annette Pigott. Annette Wood, I beg your pardon, was one of the people who rescued this party. And this gentleman to my right. I'm not going to give you details, but I best remember him saying, "Order, order." And the enemy was advancing. And this general was saying order. And tonight, we have order. We have order. Thank you very much. I asked President Andre if I was due to speak. He said, yes, I have to. But this is going to be one of my shortest speeches. This is going to be one of my shortest speeches. Let me thank, yes, of course, I'll come to Senator. Let me thank Mr. Chairman, who has conducted a very orderly meeting. And your wonderful speakers, Ms. Dujon, Ms. Dujon, My friend, Senator Walters. I think he's the most handsome man at the party. And on that subject, y'all saw the government recently? Y'all saw the kind of good-looking people that we are bringing. Senator Ryan. Amoy, please stand and show beauty. Please stand. Please stand. Senator Worrell. Don't hide your light under a bushel, Nathaniel Boyce. I told y'all, I come in. I told y'all in Hinesbury Road, you know, the stars normally come from the east. Yes. But there's a star about to rise in the city. Dale Rowe, and I told Dale a few weeks ago, Dale, I am going to treat you like a son, a brother, a friend, a comrade. No matter what comes up against you, I and this party will stand by you. There was, where's he left, Randall left, and there's Ramon Goodman, who has been, please stand. Yes. There's room in this synagogue. Where are the proselytes at the gate? Tell them come in and be fully converted. Where's Ainsley Granger? And where's Shaquani Hunt? They were all here. Well, please bring them. Let the people see them. The nation is here. Let the nation newspaper see that this is the best looking party in the Caribbean. CBC is here too? Well, let CBC see the good looking people. And Dr. Hines. Dr. Hines, please come in and sit. Come, Doc. Come. Sit here. Sit there. Sit there. And Shaquani Hunt. What did the Calypsonians say we ain't making a sport this year? You can have a seat, Shaquani. St. Michael West. The new star of St. Michael West. And I said that this was going to be a short speech, and it will be. And one of the things I learned last year when I came here, to this party, was the virtue of patience. Yeah. And I recall, I think it was one of the first meetings, I reflected on patience. And you've heard me say it before, and it took me to Isaiah 40:31. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew. Y'all have went to church recently? Help me. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. Patience, my friends. Patience. And 1 year later, are we still standing? And are we still strong? And are we unified? And will we stay strong? Yes! And will we stay unified? Yes! Amen. 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 Last year was a difficult year. And last year when we held meetings, we were uncertain. And there were those among us that were not quite with us. Yeah. And I want to confess to you that over that period of time, there was for a long time I stopped listening to the radio. Because one day I turned it on and I heard some things being said about myself who didn't recognize me. And then I went on this thing we call Facebook. And the people you know on Facebook are called friends. And I saw some friends saying some things about me. And then somebody told me how to operate Facebook. That there's something called block.
Block and delete.
And delete.
Block and delete.
So I said, well, if you're my friend and you're saying that about me, what you do, Petra?
Block and delete.
And delete.
Block and delete.
And when I'm going down in my car and somebody is carrying on about me, I didn't do anybody anything. I came back like a good husband to a good wife.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's all I did. And you know, the pastor or the priest used to say on Saturday afternoons, we are gathered in this place to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. And sometime last year, the priest said to me to join myself in political matrimony with this Democratic Labour Party. And I was told to take the vows, to cherish, to support, and the greatest, to love.
Yes.
And this party has shown me that it cherishes me. This party has shown me that it supports me. And the greatest of all, this party has shown me that it loves me. And I return that in equal amount to this great Democratic Labour Party, to you, the children and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of Errol Walton Barrow. I was looking at my little friend here for the whole night. I'm wondering two things. How old are you, son? 12. And the second thing I was wondering, what's going through his mind? Because I think he's their son. Well, look, when our mother used to take us to church, Dave will tell you, if you're sitting down in the church and you're feeling bored, she push a sweet. Come, son, give him that. Keep him away. Keep him away. And if there's anything I have to say tonight, son, what's your name? Dante. What school are you at? Lesterborn. Excellent. You're going to school tomorrow, of course. Beautiful. Mr. Bab teacher's there. He's one of us. Alwyn Bab from St. Peter. Your games teacher. And look, this is a room of adults. But our business is about him. Dante, this is about you. And when you go to school tomorrow, I want you to tell your friends that you went somewhere last night. Yes, and had a good time. And they were saying all kinds of things. Some you probably did not understand, did you? Or you understood? Some, and some you did not. They call all kinds of big words in here tonight. But we want to come to you, Dante, and we want to tell you that what we do here and what we do across Barbados is about you. It's about you and your future. That is the business of our politics, to ensure that young Dante will have a future in this country.
Oh, yes.
To ensure that young Dante will live in a country much like the one that we lived in. Because a lot of us are here tonight nervous. A lot of us in here tonight at this hour are nervous about the hour. But not so much that we are nervous about the hour, but that we are nervous about the darkness of the hour. Crime. More than anything else, crime is tearing this country apart. And the sycophants, that's the big word for yard fowls, okay? But you don't say yard fowls. Sycophants. The sycophants of the Barbados Labour Party are telling us, but you can't blame the Barbados Labour Party for the crime. Well, we don't blame them for pulling the trigger. But there's a difference between the word blame and responsibility. Yes. Okay, so when the sycophants come to you and tell you you can't blame them, carry them into a place called logic. And you can't have logic unless you have language, don't you? Sycophants. So we will tell the sycophants that while we don't blame the Barbados Labour Party for every incident of crime, we say that the Barbados Labour Party is failing to accept its responsibility to deal with the question of crime in this country. Because Dante is entitled to live the kind of life that we lived. And Dante, I don't know what you do when you go home after school, but all these old people are here around you, including me. And he is, compared to you, old. And we some old people compared to you. And when we went home from school, we used to, if the food finished, you eat some food. And you know what we used to do, Dante? Listen, open your ears, go outside and play. On the pasture. On the pasture. Every pasture across Barbados, Dante, used to be occupied by people your age. Dozens and scores of little boys and big boys and men up to the age of 30 and 35 who you think are old people. We're not seeing that in Barbados now. What we are seeing, yes, and we are seeing the pastures, gated pastures, fenced around. And I want to tell you all something about why the government fenced it in. Yes, you're right, Ricardo. They want to hold facts. They want to hold facts, but I will say this as well. It costs taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars to fence in those. Money was paid to certain people to fence them in. CBC is here and the nation here, so nobody is suing me tomorrow morning. But you know, and I know, where that money has gone. You and I know where that money eventually goes to. Because every transaction that this government makes is about certain business. They can't sue me for saying certain business. Dante, close your ears a little bit. The money that is paid on every government project in this country is paid for certain business. Correct. Every transaction is of benefit to certain people. Yes. Open your ears now again, Dante. Every transaction. And I say that to tell you how corrupt this government is. And Andre and Doc and Dale and Ryan and Felicia Ainsley, when you go to the people's houses, I have identified, it's easy to remember, and I've identified four issues in Barbados, all begin with C. And I want y'all that when you go to the houses of your constituents, remember the 5 C's. The first one is crime. That is scaring all of us in this room, including Dante. That's the first C. The second C, you're right, Adrian, corruption. They think we can't see it. But every transaction, every dollar that the government spends in this country is a suspect dollar. Can't sue me for saying so. Every dollar that this government spends, the people have to trace that dollar and see where it is going. So the second C is corruption. We have crime, we have corruption. Third C. Of course. That's why he and Ryan are in the Senate. Cost of living. Open your ears, Dante. You go to the supermarket with your dad. You go with him. And you see how he behaves when you get to the cash register? You get nervous. You don't watch him. Are you real rich? He gets, all of us, nobody here rich. We all get nervous. Crime, corruption, cost of living. And the other one is a little difficult. But look, 3 years ago, in 2021, look, Comrade Denny, this man has been my friend for the last how many years? Please stand. This man, I don't care what they say about you. You are my friend. You are my friend. Thanks for attending. And he will be working in the city with this man here. So we have crime, corruption, cost of living, and the other one, we around here for the last 3 years claiming that we're a republic. And we can't get a constitution passed. I call it constitutional conundrum, a dilemma that this country has hobbled along since 2021? And we in 2025, 3+ years later. And we still have a half a constitution that is half republic. And it is Republican because the Governor General, former Governor General, is now the president. But it has only gone halfway. It used to be a British-style constitution called a Westminster Constitution. And it is still a Westminster-style constitution, but we're halfway. And you know who is taking advantage of this halfway house called a Republican Constitution with Westminster content? A Prime Minister who continues to abuse power in this country. Simply because we do not have a constitution that says to a Prime Minister that the issue of setting election dates should no longer fall on one person. I listened to Trevor Marshall today. I was watching the Nation videos. And Trevor Marshall, and we really must pause and pay tribute to Trevor. You know, he was a member of this constituency, lived in Hill Road, much of his life from St. John. And I will come to Mengzi soon. And Trevor was speaking highly of Costa Rica as one of the stable republics in this region. You all heard of Costa Rica? Young Dante, where is Costa Rica? You wouldn't do your geography? It's in South America, isn't it? Yes. And it is one of the stable republics. And when you have a properly functioning Republican constitution, a Prime Minister is unable to manipulate election dates to ambush the opposition. And one of the other proposals in her new constitution, which we are going to oppose, is that the Governor General no longer has to give assent. Don't worry about them words, Dante. Approval to legislation that comes from Parliament. Every piece of legislation that is passed between the House and the Senate must then go to the Governor General, and she signs and says, I assent, I approve, this can become law. Under this new proposal that they have, they are removing the president. Shame, Tennyson. They're removing the hand of the president. And when they pass law, having 29 of them, for the time being, they want to pass the law and remove the hand of the president and say, we passed this week giving assent to this. So there will be no what we call, Dante, checks and balances. You with me? You sure? You're going to school tomorrow, show off then. You do civics at school, they call it civics still. Social studies. I'm coming to religion shortly. I'm coming back at you. You don't fall asleep. Eat that sweet and stay awake. So that we have a constitution, or we have a constitution that is halfway between republicanism and Westminster. There's a sense in which we are in no man's land. And if you are in no man's land, it gives to the Prime Minister, and I'm saying the Prime Minister, because all you here know that the rest of them ain't got no say. It is the Prime Minister. And that's why I go after the Prime Minister. I not like certain other people who used to say, oh, fire John Brown and fire Mary Smith. I don't want them fired. We want the madam fired. We want her fired because she is the one that is creating the mess in this country. None of them, not one of the 28 of them, has any power. Power and ultimate power resides with her. And all that is going wrong, she must take the blame. And if she thinks that anything is going right and she wants to take the credit, well, so be it. But something is very wrong and rotten in Barbados tonight. And somebody has to take the blame. So we have a constitution that is problematic. We have a half a constitution. And this government has taken 3+ years and cannot yet get a constitution passed. We are the only country in the world that has hobbled along in this state of affairs. And as I've said, we consider a constitution to be just a document that is written, and lawyers talk about it and parliamentarians talk about it. But your rights, every right you have derives from the Constitution. And you would have seen the newspaper today, I think you commented on it, Amoy, about or the bar president. This government is taking up people's land. Taking up people's land, Andre. And rather than pay the people their money for the land that they take up, they're giving them bonds. And they're giving them that under the power of a new piece of legislation. And I'm going to show you the importance and the relevance of a constitution. Because any law that abridges, that infringes, that violates your fundamental rights is unconstitutional. And you can't take up somebody's property, pay them by bonds, which become due in 5-10 years, under the law that is unconstitutional. And if they're doing it by virtue of an act of parliament that they passed, the act is unconstitutional. And that is the importance of a constitution. That is why a constitution, as we say, must live. It must live to protect your fundamental rights. And a man who loses his property by governmental action, a man whose property is taken up by the government under something called compulsory acquisition, he is entitled to payment. He's entitled to payment quickly. And he is entitled to payment that is meaningful. You can't give the man bonds. That infringes and violates the man's constitutional right to property. If he can't have his land, give him the value of his land. I repeat, Dante, if you can't have your land, give the man the value of his land. When I was your age and younger, we used to play with the toffee paper and the mint paper and the stoppers, and that was our money. And I'm saying to this meeting that the bonds that they're giving to people, Dante, like the toffee paper, you never play money. Man, what kind of life these young people live in? Look, get your son. Or they use Monopoly. Oh, your daddy rich. No, we couldn't buy Monopoly. So that the bonds, you give a man a bond, and tell him that he can collect the money in 5 years, we could as well give him toffee paper. And the coke stopper. Ken, if you know about this, you didn't play money, and you didn't buy rocks. Not them kind. But that's what we did as children. And they are reverting our people to toffee paper money, paper money. Coke stoppers used to pick them up off the ground. And people in this country who are having their property taken away from them are being made to revert to toffee paper money. Nathaniel, this seems all strange to you. You didn't know about this either? You knew about it? You're too young to know about it? So I'm just demonstrating to you why the Constitution is important. It is not any high-flown document. Anytime your fundamental rights, and I'm talking about your right to property, your right to do what we're doing here, to have freedom of speech, okay? The right to assemble like this. These are constitutional rights. So you don't have to be any constitutional lawyer to know what the Constitution does for you. The Constitution works for you every minute of the day. You have the right to life. You have the right not to be detained by the police unless the police have reason to suspect that you've committed a crime. All these are fundamental rights that you have, so that you sit on your constitutional rights from day to day, except that you're not aware of it. And sometimes you need a lawyer to tell you what are your rights. And I'm saying to those people who've been receiving the bonds, that if the government is paying them bonds in furtherance or pursuant to an act of parliament, I am saying that act of parliament is a breach of the Constitution. Because the Constitution is supreme law. And any law that exists under the Constitution must be in accordance with the Constitution. And if it is not in accordance with the Constitution, it is unconstitutional. And if an act done under that law breaches your fundamental rights, your constitutional rights, that act is also unconstitutional. So I want you to understand what is your status in this country as citizens. That if a government is unable to pass a constitution after 3.5 years, we are all at risk. Yes. Our fundamental rights are at risk. So this is no high-flown academic treatise or class on constitutional law. I'm talking to you about your rights in plain old language that Dante understands. He's sitting up now. You understanding me now, Dante? And he's smiling. So that's the Constitution. Give me the 4 again. The concerns that you will disclose to your constituents. Crime. Dante, you got the 4 of them? Tell us. Sorry to do this to you. Crime, corruption. Y'all think this happens in a BLP meeting? No! I was out there, never happened yet. Look, I can come to the 5th one. You know where the BLP went today? The BLP had a joint branch meeting in Farley Hill. The Nation Man left. The Nation Man put up some videos this evening at, some branches scattered down there in Farley Hill this evening. And as usual, big stage, enough lights. And the poor entertainers not feeling the crowd, Wade Gibbons. They're not feeling the crowd. They were not there. The vibe was not, hey, try to say you know some young people words. And I'm asking y'all, in all seriousness, we are not dictators, but try not to support that scattering. Try not to support it. Try not to support it because it is wrong. It is wrong to take up taxpayers' dollars precisely to spend on an event that is intended to gain support for the Barbados Labour Party leading into the next election. Do not support it. And do like the thousands of Barbadians who are not supporting it. When you get home, look at the Nation videos that the young man, he was sitting there, he's gone. He had his pictures. Yes, it will be. And you know what the smart NCF is doing? They're zooming in close. But the Nation decide them in zooming in close. They pan the crowd. And you know what they're doing? Every time they had the country painted red, benches and everything was painted red. They're telling them now, wear green shirts. Let the people think that you're not BLP members or supporters. Yes, this government is like Hitler. This is a propaganda government. This government does not do anything honestly. They are telling people how to dress to come to a gathering because they want it to look like a genuine and authentic national event. They want it to look as if they're not BLP sycophants. Don't say yard fouls. So they're telling them wear all kinds of colors. So at we gathering, you're hardly seeing any red. I saw a few today. The message probably didn't get to them. But propaganda government has produced rescattering. Yeah, it has produced rescattering. Please, I beg you, do not betray your own interests. That money that is being spent on regathering could be spent on the poor people in Barbados who are enduring, see Dante, cost of living. Ask your daddy how hard it is living in this country. Ask your daddy about the light and power bill, and look, we are going to deal with light and power and the relationship between light and power, between BL&P and BLP. And we are going to demonstrate to you that it is as if there's no and between BL and P. Same, you take out the and, BLP and BLP. Murdering us with the electric bills when the month come and promoting a high cost of living. You see how things are connected, Dante? You're awake now. You like this meeting now. You like it? You're smiling. And so we've had the 4 C's. Crime, cost of living, constitution, and corruption. Dante, this one is for you. The 5th C is a culture of moral decay. A culture of moral decay. I want you to remember these things. Don't go to school and tell people you went to any politics. Tell them you went to a place where you learned. You were in a classroom up at Commonwealth. You were learning some things. And there's a culture, the 5th C is a culture of moral decay that is taking over the lives of these people. You are on a jury with me sometime. You lock up my client. I don't forget people. You lock him up or you acquitted? You lock up. God, I remember him well for the jury. Wouldn't smile. I cracked so many jokes in my clothes to the dress, hoping to soften him. Boy, he kept a straight face. I said guilty. All right, I forgive you. A culture of moral decay. Now, a culture, Dante, relates to the way people behave. Yeah, you got me? You with me? It is the way we behave towards each other. It refers to all the things we do, the kind of foods we cook, the kind of entertainment we engage in, whether we go to church or not, if we're a church-going community. All of this is our culture. It is the general behavior of a country. You're following me, Dante? These older people know it, so I'm preaching to you now. So you understand what is the culture. The way a society, you know what's a society, right? The way everybody in a society behaves ordinarily. And of course, violence has never been a part of our culture. But under this government, Dante, violence has now become a part of our culture. And the government is refusing to exercise the power that it has. One, the control of the police. Two, the control of the defense force. Three, and people will be surprised that I will call this one, the control of the National Cultural Foundation, which is responsible for cultural decay in this country. And we thought it was only the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds that were joking. Close up your ears, Dante. Don't want you to hear this joking thing. But it went into a primary school in the country. You all saw the video? Where do you think they got that from? That is a culture that has taken over the minds and the bodies of our children in this country. And I am saying to you that 2 years ago I saw a video from, where's Botanical Gardens? Out there? Right there. And the BLP had an event out there. And there was a man, I don't want to call his name, but he has an interesting name. And they were all in raid then because the gathering hadn't started, so everybody was wearing raid. And they brought a little girl. Dawn is here. From Dawn's constituency, I'm not going to identify the neighborhood. And a man who's, I already don't want to call his name, but I will call a part of it. An entertainer who calls himself, well, they call me Rat too. But he is, his name is Rat. Rat is my initials, by the way, Ralph Anthony Thor. So when they call me, I laugh. I find it amusing. But this man was on the stage and he called on a girl at a BLP party right out there at Botanical Gardens. And he is over her and he's telling her what to do and she down on the floor. 13 years old. You're 13? You're 13, Dante? 12? She was 13, same thing. Your next age is, when are you going to be 13? 16th of April, just now, happy birthday. And at a BLP event, they had a 13-year-old girl lying on the stage, gyrating, and the man was over her telling her what to do and how to do and when to do. And so that behavior has crept in among young people. And we were so shocked. It reached a country school. We used to think that there was this great divide between town and country. And we used to think that the country people were so old-fashioned and conservative. It's gone. It's gone. That culture, Dante, of moral decay, you know the word moral? You understand the word moral? You understand the word morality? Well, when you go to school tomorrow, tell them that there was a man in there talking about morality. M-O-R-A-L-I-T-Y. And morality is an appreciation for what is right and what is... Come, Dante, come, you got to talk in here. Morality is when you appreciate the difference between what is right and what is wrong. And that is what your daddy teaches you. That every decision that you make, everyone, you have to decide, is it right or is it wrong? And morality is when you have that sense of what is right and what is wrong. Don't worry about these big words. You can understand them, and you understand morality now, and you will be a moral young man. You will be a well-behaved young man, and you will appreciate the difference between right and wrong. And when you understand that an action is wrong, you will do it. And if it is right, will you do it? And if it is right and you do it, you will say that you have good morals. Okay? You got me? You're going to school and brag tomorrow? Please do. Please do. Tell your friends that from today, you are a moral person, a good person. You slap the boy around his head. Admit it, please. Did you slap that boy around his head? When the teacher turned his back, you threw the chalk at him? Because you're a good person. You have morals. Now, I'm not going to ask you some personal questions because your daddy can lash you when you get home tonight. But some of your colleagues are doing some things that they should not do. They're fighting. I see the videos, you know. All the schools fighting, so it ain't no special school. All the schools fighting. Under, as Senator Worrell said, the poorest minister of education we've ever had in this country. Education in this country is waiting for that lady. For that lady. You tired, Dante, or you want some more lessons in morality? Because morality relates itself to how everybody behaves. And some people behave badly, and some behave well. But we have a culture in this country now in which too many of our young people are behaving badly. And that is what I mean, that is what we mean as adults when we tell you that there is a culture under this government of moral decay. Morals are dropping, standards are dropping. Dante, you're with us? This exercise this evening is about you. It is about your future. It is about ensuring that you have a life of safety and security and prosperity when you reach the age of 20 or 21. Are you aware that a lot of young men who are 20 and 21 died last year? You know how they died, Dante? How they died? Shooting and stabbings. Precisely. Because you are now living in a country in which morality means nothing. A fella could wake up, shoot a man, or a man shoot him, and that's life. When that gentleman next to you was your age, how many murders they had a year, Adrian? 2 or 3? 2. We had 8 already so far this year. 2. And the government says don't blame them. We're not blaming them, but we're saying you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to protect Dante. Because at our age, we're not going on the playing fields anymore. But it is Dante who cannot go on the playing field on evenings. Because more than likely a man will run across with a gun, shooting at another man. And the government says don't blame them, but you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to let the police force function. That is the responsibility that the government has. Let the police force function and stop interfering in the police force. They call it a service under this republic. Let the police service function. They're not letting the police service function. Because every action in this country must lead to one McGuffey. One McGuffey is making every decision. In every ministry. The general, they called her? So Dante, this is about you. We want this Democratic Labour Party wants to be a government that is returning to this country a culture of high standards. Don't want to ask you your personal business, but look around this room, get up and point at anybody you feel older than you. Get up and point at them. Anybody? Get up, please. Get up, Dante. Look around and point at anybody you feel older than you. Not your father. Everybody. Sit down, Dante, you're right. All old people are here. Anybody over 15 is old. Or 20, they're older than you. But I want to tell you something about them. When they were your age, and I am not criticizing your daddy, but they were getting lashes every Sunday morning. You know why? You don't know why? He laughing. Dante, you don't know why they used to get, look. Pick any, look, you see the lady there in the white? You see the lady there in the white? Get up and look at her. Get up and look at her in the white shirt. that's smiling at you. You saw her? Every Sunday morning, she had to go to church. And if she didn't go, you know what they used to do with her? You better talk to that old man here. So you understanding, sit Dante. So you understanding now what we went through? You do? You understanding now why we live such different lives to the one that you, to your friends, are living? Because that lady in the white shirt and the gentleman next to her, they used to get lashes on Sunday mornings, me too. Not for not going to church if you're late. Yes. And somebody said on Sunday evenings you had to go back. But the government can't force anybody to do that. But what the government must stop doing, the government must stop, I'm going to use a big word now, lionizing, promoting role models who are bad for young people. That is what the government must stop doing, because the government is supporting entertainers who are bad examples for you and people your age. And the government, you can't blame them for what the man is singing, but you say that they breach their responsibility to the young people of this country when they encourage that kind of entertainment. And indeed, some of that entertainment is done with taxpayers' money. And that's what we mean when we say that the government is breaching its responsibility to the young people of this country. That is why we have a culture of moral decay. I'm done with you now for the time. More big words. More big words now. That is what I mean when I say we have a culture of moral decay. The heart and soul of this country is in decay. When we were growing up, the pastor, the preacher, the policeman, the teacher, they were all respected. Sometimes they lashed us too much, but we respected them. We respected them as what we call, back to you Dante, authority figures. Your teacher at school is an authority figure. He is over you. And when the children cursing him, don't join them. Because in our day we didn't curse the teacher, at least not for him to hear. I understand y'all, not you, but I understand y'all in the schools now cursing the teachers and they can hear. And that is an entire culture that is taking over this country. And the Ministry of Education, as Andrea said, is breaching its responsibility, and Felicia, to the educational system in this country. Coming home now, David. To the educational system in this country, when there are no standards encouraged. And so we're coming from the top and we're going down for the last time. Give me the first C, Dante. You forgot already? Crying? Look, where your teacher talking to you, stand up in here, please. I don't want to see what we're gathering. I don't want to see any, well, I can't stop you from going to any BLP meetings, but I know you ain't going. But what you learned here tonight is a valuable lesson to you and your friends. Show off when you go to school tomorrow. Tell them about the 5 C's. You don't have to tell them anything about DLP because I don't want you to be political. But I want you to tell your friends about the lesson that you learned. That if this government, don't talk about the government, but I'm back to your adults now. If this government and our candidates recognize our responsibility over the next weeks and months, and if it is a year leading to the election, and we tell the people in this country what are the issues, reduce it to those 5 if you want. There will be others. But those are the issues to which this government has refused to pay attention. And with this gentleman to my left and to my right and the lady in the corner, we pledge to you. We pledge to you that the interest of the people of this country will be put first. And if they're interested in welfare, I'm very sorry. I'm not. I was never rich, and I can't get rich at this age. I am interested in good and honest government. good and honest government. And this is no threat. This is no threat to this Democratic Labour Party. But this party had better be interested in good and honest government. Otherwise, the majority of people in this party and the majority of people in this country will send us back from whence we came. But I know that as long as we make that pledge to be good government, to practice integrity in public life, to speak honestly to the people, and if things are bad, say they're bad. And if things are good, rejoice with the people and let them share in the goodness. I feel confident that the people of this country will take us back into their own confidence and send us back to the parliament of this country, not to become celebrities, but to become servants of the people. And I want to tell you something about this foolishness called celebrity. We have a lot of... Dante, close up them ears, please. We have a lot of ignorant people in Parliament.
It's true.
And every time you see them out in public, crop over, for example, shirt off, little hot pants. Men, you know. Little hot pants. Chest up, pulling the belly, and then posing off. And them is a close up. They are celebrities. And celebrity is a status that you have when you're focusing on self. We are not celebrities. We are servants of the people. And even before I came over, I was saying that my motto in politics derives from Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition nor vain conceit, but in humility put others before yourselves, Senator Worrell. That is our motto going forward. Philippians 2:3, Dante, open those ears. Philippians 2:3, your Father wants to be, and if it is God's will, and I hope it is God's will, he will go to Parliament. And you have a Bible home? Don't expose him. Come on, Dale. You have one. Well, get one for him. And when he buys you that Bible, by Wednesday this week it says deadline. You will go to a book called Philippians. You with me? What's the name of the book? Stand up when the teacher is talking to you, please. Philippians. Man, when the teacher, you up there shouting all over the place, come shout it here. Let me hear you. Philippians 2:3. That is chapter 2, verse 3. You vexed with me? You vexed with me? I made you shame? All right, sit down. Put him to sit down. Put him to sit down. Put him to sit down. Well, suppose you got some lashes. You were dead. Oh, he getting the flashes. All right, Dante. We good again? Good. Philip, we leave on that Dante is going to write out Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition, nor vain conceit, but in, this is the important word, humility. Put others before yourselves. And I will not allow one member of this team to proceed towards government unless that shall be their motto. This is what this Democratic Labour Party is about. And if I have anything to do with it, and if Senator Worrell and Dr. Hines and Felicia Dujon and Ryan, where's Shakwani? And Amoy, if we have anything to do with it, that is the pledge we make to you tonight. And Nathaniel, forgot you, Nathaniel. You're so shy, you often forget shy Nathaniel. That if we have anything to do with government in Barbados when this McGuffey calls the election, we pledge to you that that is how we go into the office of government in this country. That's correct. That's correct, Amoy. Philippians 2:3. Make that the pledge on this humble soil called Combermere tonight, where my friend Wade Gibbons went to school. He's back at school. I think I've exceeded my time. I wanted to speak for a short time, but this little man here took me on a journey, and he's smiling with me again. This is your fault. I wanted to speak for 10 minutes. They tell me that this is the first year anniversary that I came back to renew my vows with my partner called the Democratic Labour Party. And I promise you, the love is there. I cherish you. And I support you as you have supported me over the last year. And in so doing, in so closing, let me pay tribute to a member of this constituency. I used to call him Menzies. And I never called him Clyde after he told me that his father was Menzies. And we will tell Dante about the 1937 riots. And that the 1937 riots, if they had not taken place, Barbados' democracy would not have reached the stage that it is at now. It is the riots that liberated people from poverty, that caused the authorities in this country to recognize that the people were not happy with their material conditions. It was the riots. It wasn't Parliament. It wasn't any boardroom in Bridgetown. And there was a gentleman who was with us up until recently. One of his last acts was to come down to the party and pay his dues. You all know that? Yeah. On the day that he died, Clyde Chase came down to the Democratic Labour Party and paid his dues. But the payment of dues was financial, monetary. It was money. But I want to say to you, St. Michael's Central, that for many years, Clyde Chase had been paying his dues. And we are the beneficiaries of his loyalty and commitment to this party. As we are beneficiaries of the noble acts of his father, Menzies Chase, who was one of the heroes in the riots in 1937. And when his funeral comes, we will all be there. We will all be there. Not only with sadness, which is normal and natural, but with a spirit of celebrating, genuinely celebrating the life of a patriot, of a hero, the son of Menzies Chase. And so we go forward. We go forward. We want to be victorious. The people of Barbados want us to be victorious. But let us go forward as Philippians 2:3 asks us to do, with humility. Do not show off. If you feel you're winning, stay humble. Stay humble. Work hard. Show the people that you are with them, that your heart is joined with their heart. I know Dale is going to do it. I know Ryan is going to do it, and the doc. And these two patriots to my right. And Amoy. Show the people that we are with them. And you can only show the people that you're with them if you practice humility. Joining hearts and hearts and heads and heads. And humility, I want to assure you, humility is not weakness. Too many people mistake humility for weakness. As humble as he is. If he were not strong, last year when he sat at that table and said, order, order, we would not be here tonight, Andre. Every opportunity I get in public, I'm going to say it. You had no idea what you were doing then, or the magnitude of what you were doing then. And as humble as we were not weak. And as civil as we were not weak. We were strong. And look at us a year later. Give yourselves a round of applause. This party will remain strong. This party will remain united. This party will remain God-fearing. This party will continue to honor the spirit of Errol Walton Barrow, James Cameron Tudor, Sir Lloyd Erskine Sandiford, Brantford Tate, Philip Graves, and all of those people who built this party. And it is not us, the candidates, who will continue to build this party. We're going into what I call the engine room. You. We couldn't come here and speak to ourselves. We came to speak to you. And we came to ask you to continue the cause, to continue your commitment to uplifting this country out of those 5 C's that Dante will talk about tomorrow. That's why we're here. That is the mission, that is the purpose, that is the reason we're here. Let us continue in service, not in celebrity. Let us continue in service. May God bless us all. Thank you.
I would do the telephone and allow them to go in the All right, good evening. With the permission of the chairperson, we have one more thing to do before tonight's meetings close. As our political leader would have mentioned, today is the anniversary of when he came back to the Democratic Labour Party. Renewed his vows to the Democratic Labour Party. And we want to pay a tribute to him tonight with a toast. Because you hear the speech tonight, this is the leader that this country needs. And as the Democratic Labour Party, we need to celebrate a visionary leader, someone with a passion. You can start sharing what you think. Someone with a passion and commitment. No. So I'm asking everybody to sit because we're still recording, but they will come through and they will share you the drink for the toast. Right. So I'm just giving time to share the drink. So we have a passionate and committed leader, someone who needs to be the Prime Minister of Barbados. So we are celebrating him returning to the Democratic Labour Party. And we are going to have a toast, and I'm going to ask Amoy to come and make a presentation to him as well.
Well, this is from the party to you in celebration of your first anniversary, and it's just a minuscule token of our appreciation for the time you have taken, for your leadership and your guidance, and I wish you all the best. And we are here with you to support you on this journey.
You want it in the toast? Half for you. Senator first with me.
Yes, yes.
And you got all the
Tell them about the time to do the other.
No. You cool down. No, this is a very good gesture here for you. You're coming back to the party means a lot to everybody in here. A lot. Right? I think over the year or over the last few months, you have proven to be the man that we want you to be. You have proven to be the leader that we want and the leader that Barbados needs. So, I mean, I just want to let us all raise our glasses.
Well, good evening again, comrades. I think when I started the conversation, I did say that I would publicly, I haven't done that as yet to our comrade leader. I don't think that he understood when he told us to be brave, what it meant for many of us. And I remember the first time you told me, Felicia, don't be scared. I didn't understand what it meant at the time. And that's when we had the meeting in Christchurch. And I want to thank you for leading us. Thank you for the guidance, and thank you for everything that you've done for us. It doesn't feel like a year. It feels like you were there to provide the guidance and the intervention that we needed at the time. So with everyone here, with all our comrades, we need to thank not only our comrade leader, but we need to thank God, because we needed that intervention. And we will continue to put God at the right hand and the right foot, and to give our comrade leader and our team the type of strength and courage that we need. Thank you.
Look, I have asked this gentleman to mentor the young men in the party. This gentleman here. Y'all will get to find out a lot about him soon. And you will hear a lot about and from him. But I have asked this gentleman, with his record of public service in Barbados, to mentor the young men in this party. Okay?
All right, good night, everybody. It was Sunday, the 21st of April, 2024. At George Street headquarters, when a meeting was called to deliver a members' meeting to report on the progress. And that meeting turned out to be a defining moment in this party. And a Sunday that we who were present would never forget. And it was when someone moved a motion of no confidence in our political leader. And it was at a point where he was around his lowest, at his lowest ebb, one can say. And he might not say it, but I said to him, go and speak. Do not respond to anything that was said about you. And Comrade Leader took the microphone and raised the meeting from the gutter to the roof. And from that day, I am sure that we all knew the type of leader that we were getting and the type of leader that we have. So what we saw at the budget reply last year is only the tip of the iceberg, my brother. And I am saying to you, Comrade Leader, I love you. And I will support you every step of the way. And I am calling on all members and supporters of this Democratic Labour Party. We must stand behind, in front, beside, above, and beneath our leader, Ralph Torn. We must see him through. We must see this party through. And I am saying that come whenever the next election is called, we must stand shoulder to shoulder, man to man, woman to woman, for the betterment of this Democratic Labour Party. And I want to raise, and the country, because this country is at a crossroads. This country is at a crossroads. And the issue is too grave for this party to remain silent. It is too grave for the members of this party to remain silent. And as Comrade Leader said, you will be hearing a little bit more from me when at the appropriate time. But I am saying I want every man, woman, and Dante stay with the Democratic Labour Party. It is the party for Barbados. And we need Democratic Labour Party right now. And again, Comrade Leader, I want to raise a toast to you for the jolly good man that you are and that you will be. Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip.